Hello, this is your host, Adam Graham, from Pretty Much the Present. And in this video, we'll be bringing you a compilation of old-time radio detective podcasts from 2010. The podcasts are appearing, for the most part, unedited, except for some extraneous or repetitive elements that are being removed because this is a compilation. As I said, these are old, so any websites or offers mentioned may not be valid at the time you're listening unless you find them on our website currently. Now, with that said, here is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. I'm ready to bring you another week, beginning with Box 13. If you do have any comments, send them to box13 at greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And you can also become a fan of the show on Facebook, facebook.greatdetectives.net. And we actually turned to the Dragnet Facebook page. I got a comment from Chris who says, "Hey Adam, a little bit of news for you. A new graphic novel has been released with a reimagining of Box 13. It's by Comixology. It's a great 21st century adaptation of a great series. Check it out." And I actually found the press release from Comixology. It's created by Dave Gallagher and Steve Ellis. The stories, they've got it here. It follows investigative author Dan Holliday, who has spent the last several years of his life researching the secrets behind the MKULTRA project. His latest book has brought him a degree of notoriety, but a mysterious numbered box left on his book signing table is too much to resist. Once open, the box sends him spinning on a harrowing journey of self-discovery and driving mystery. What is in Box 13? While inspired by the noir serial of the 1940s, the reimagining blends in the disorienting action mysteries of the 1960s, like The Manchurian Candidate, The Prisoner, and the Modesty Blaze, wrapped in a modern tale in a digital medium. There's gunplay, conspiracy, romance, psychological drama, train chases, motorcycle chases, and danger, author David Gallagher told CBR. But at its heart, it's a story about rediscovering your place in the world after everything in your life changes forever. So it sounds pretty interesting. There have been several, actually, old-time radio shows that have inspired spin-off graphic novels. The most obvious example was Pat Novak for Hire, and there was a Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, as well as a Boston Blackie. And I can definitely appreciate these artists who are getting inspired by some of these old radio shows and bringing them to a new generation through a different media. And you can always hope, too, that that'll lead to some interest in the source material, kind of like somebody doing Othello in space. All right, I want to let you know about our sponsors before you get started. If you like the flexibility to live your life and do the things that are important to you, you'll like GoToMeeting. With GoToMeeting's conferencing solutions, you can meet virtually with clients and business partners and reduce the cost associated with doing business. GoToMeeting is from Citrix, the makers of the trusted GoToMyPC product. Like GoToMyPC, it's simple to use and doesn't require you to learn new technology. Listeners to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio can try GoToMeeting free for 45 days. For this special offer, visit GoToMeeting.com/podcast. That's GoToMeeting.com/podcast. And now let's go ahead and listen to Box 13, The Treasure of Hangley.
Box 13, with the star of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
Box 13, care of the Star Times. If your advertisement is on the level, I think you'll find this worth your time. Be in the Quan Hai shop in Chinatown at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Pretend you want to buy some jade. Reject the first 2 pieces offered, then mention the Hang Li piece in the window. Buy the Hang Li. This will be worth a lot of money to you. Remember, it's the Quan Hai shop in Chinatown.
Shop in Chinatown. Ask for jade, but reject the first 2 pieces. Then mention the Hang Li piece in the window. Go back and wait for further instructions. That was the letter. No signature. It sounded interesting, and it was. If you like murder.
And now back to The Treasure of Hang Li, another Box 13 adventure with Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
I don't get it, Mr. Holliday. Why should you reject the first 2 pieces?
Ah, that's what makes the letter interesting, Susie. Why reject the first 2 pieces and then mention the Hang Li piece?
All right. Why?
I think I've got an idea.
What is it?
Pretty obvious, Susie. Look, the letter doesn't say anything about identifying myself, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Well, if I follow instructions, follow them exactly, I'll be tipping myself to someone in the store. You get it?
Oh, sure. Whoever wrote the letter will be there, too, waiting for you to follow instructions.
That's a great deduction.
And I did it all myself, too.
You sure did. Okay, Susie, I'm going to make like Marco Polo and visit our Chinese friends. It took me a half an hour to drive to Chinatown and another 10 minutes to find the shop of Quan Hai. I looked in the windows. There was the usual line of stuff: back scratchers, Kuan Yins, bamboo trinkets, red lacquer bowls, but only one piece of jade. It was roughly square and seemed to have been broken. It looked like a part of a bigger piece. So I went into the shop. There were 6 or 7 other people besides myself, and, well, they were looking at curios, and no one paid any attention to me. Then a young Chinese clerk smiled and came over to me.
Oh, yes, sir. Can I help you, please?
Oh, yes, I want to buy a piece of jade.
Yes, sir. You want a certain color?
Well, I don't know.
This is a very nice piece, sir. It is what we call the mutton fat color.
It's very nice, but not quite what I want.
A ring, perhaps? Cufflinks? A snuff bottle?
I don't know. You see, it's for a gift.
Oh, this piece is very fine, sir. And the carving is excellent. But it is not very old.
Oh, there's a piece in the window. The only piece. What is that?
The piece in the window, sir?
Yes, it's a Hang Li piece, isn't it? Well?
If you will please to follow me, sir.
But the piece is in the window.
I know, sir. But for that piece, you will have to see Mr. Quan. This way, please. If you please, sir, in here. I will send for Mr. Quan. You will please excuse me now, sir, the other customer.
Yeah, sure, thank you.
It is nothing at all, sir.
He went out, and I heard a key turn in the lock of the door. For a moment, I was left alone in a room that was different from the rest of the store. Very different. Instead of the usual junk that tourists buy, this room was a treasure house. Rose quartz, wonderful jade screens, beautiful porcelain bowls that seemed to be lighted from inside, lacquerware that shone like satin in the dim light. I was looking around me when...
Good afternoon, sir.
Oh, how do you do, Mr. Quan?
I am Mr. Quan. Please to sit down, sir.
Thank you.
May I help you, Mr.
My name is Holliday, Dan Holliday.
I am honored, Mr. Holliday.
Your clerk told me I'd have to see you about that Hang Li jade in the window.
Yes, that is true. You want that piece, Mr. Holliday?
Yes, I'd like to buy it.
One moment. It is strange. That Hang Li piece has lain in the window for 2 weeks now. You are the first to ask for it.
I saw it and liked it.
Of course. You are a man of excellent taste. It is a very fine piece. Incredibly ancient and incredibly valuable.
Oh? Well, maybe I can't afford it.
The Hang Li piece, Mr. Quan.
Thank you, Lyon. That is all.
Yes, Mr. Quan.
Does he always lock the door when he leaves this room?
There are very valuable things in this room, Mr. Holliday.
Oh, I see. But the Hang Lee piece, is it valuable, Mr. Kwan?
Yes, Mr. Holliday. So valuable that there is no price on it. Odd that you should ask for it.
You have no idea how odd.
It is a piece of a larger work, 12 inches by 12 inches to be exact. This is only 1/3 of the original.
May I see it?
Certainly.
It looks like a wonderful piece of jade.
Do you know what Confucius said about jade?
Well, I seem to have heard quite a few things Confucius was supposed to have said, but I doubt if any of them would fit the bill just now.
Yes. But Confucius said that jade is like truth. It gives out a bright rainbow, and it shows a pure spirit among the hills and streams.
Truth gives out a bright rainbow. That's a very pretty figure of speech, Mr. Kwan.
Yes. Truth is very often a figure of speech. Is it not, Mr. Holliday?
Yes, I'm afraid you're right. But about this piece.
Yes. You will note the carving, very beautifully done.
These are Chinese characters, aren't they?
Yes. It is too bad the other 2/3 of the entire piece are missing.
Oh? Why is that? I mean, beyond the fact that it seems a shame to ruin such a magnificent thing.
Foolish old Chinese legend, Mr. Holliday. It says that he who translates the writing will be led to a treasure beyond all price.
But you'd have to have all 3 pieces.
You would need all 3 pieces.
And where are the other 2?
I do not know.
I see. Well, Mr. Kwan, how much for this piece?
Mr. Holliday, it has no price.
You mean it's not for sale?
It is not for sale.
But I don't understand. It was in the window.
Yes, and no one inquired about it. Perhaps because collectors would not be interested in a broken piece.
That could be. But that still doesn't explain why you had it in your window, and yet not have it for sale.
Because, Mr. Holliday, the piece is yours.
I beg your pardon. What did you say?
The Hang Lee piece is yours. There is no price on it.
But I can't take it without paying for it.
You asked for it?
Of course I did, Mr. Kwan, but I'm prepared to pay for it.
I am sorry, there is no price. The piece is yours for the taking.
Well, suppose someone else had come in and asked for it. Would you have given it to anyone?
Only to one who asked for it by name, as you did.
I don't understand.
Truth, Mr. Holliday, is a figure of speech. I have told you the truth. The Hang Lee piece is yours. Please, take it. Now, if you will excuse me.
Just a moment, Mr. Kwan. Suppose I refuse to walk out with this.
It is a matter of indifference to me.
Then, as a matter of curiosity, how much is the piece worth?
That depends upon who has it.
And that means what?
That is hard to say. To a collector, the Hang Lee piece would be worth perhaps no more than $100. To you, it is worth what you make it. To me, it is priceless. Here is Lyon. Lyon, please show Mr. Holliday to the door. His business here is concluded.
It will be great honor, Mr. Kwan.
Just so. Well, goodbye, Mr. Holliday, and may the bat roost upon your roof.
May the what rest for where?
The bat is a Chinese symbol for good fortune. Goodbye.
Please to come with me, Mr. Holliday.
You're sure you won't change your mind, Mr. Kwan?
About what?
The Hang Lee piece?
It is yours. Perhaps we shall meet again, Mr. Holliday.
Oh, wait, just a minute, Mr. Kwan.
He is gone, Mr. Holliday. Now, if you will please to follow me.
All right. Thanks.
Is there anything else you wish, Mr. Holliday?
Yes, I think there is.
And that is?
I wish someone would tell me why I advertise for adventure and get mixed up in things like this. Goodbye. So, with the Hang Lee piece tucked under my arm and a great big question mark tucked under my hat, I left Kwan Lee's place. For a moment, I stood in front of the store. No one followed me out, although I knew that whoever had sent me the letter was watching. So I drove home and waited in my apartment. I didn't wait long. Hello?
Miss Holliday?
Yes, it is.
I'm the one who sent you the letter. Bring the Hang Lee piece to 721 South Ferry Street, room 6.
Oh, just a minute. How do you know I've got the piece?
I was in the store this afternoon.
And why didn't you ask me for it there?
You're wasting time. Please bring the Hangley piece. You won't be sorry.
What was that address again?
721 South Ferry Street, room 6.
And the name?
You've got all you need to know. I'll be waiting.
Well. All right, Mr. South Ferry Street. We'll see what you have to offer.
Please go back in, Mr. Holliday.
Oh, I've got company.
Please go back. Sit down.
I just got up.
Sit down.
Oh, thank you. Won't you?
You're much younger than I thought you'd be.
Oh, is that so? Well, keep pointing that gun at me and I can age 10 years.
You have quite a sense of humor for a murderer.
Murder? Well, this is news. Go on, Miss...
Loring. Greta Loring.
How do you do?
Doesn't the name Loring mean anything, Mr. Holliday?
Beyond the fact that it belongs to a very pretty girl holding a very ugly gun, I'm completely at loss.
Lying seems to be another of your doubtful accomplishments.
Oh, yes, I'm very talented, but I'm no good at puzzles. You see, I give up too easily.
I had a hard time finding you. Especially since you changed your name.
No, this is news. I'm a murderer, a liar, and I'm living under an alias.
This afternoon you gave yourself away by getting the Hangley jade from that shop. Sooner or later I knew I'd trace you through that piece of jade.
Oh, so you were there, too?
I've watched that shop for days, waiting for you to get the Hangley.
And now that I've got it?
I'm going to take it. Then kill you.
In that order, I suppose.
Give it to me.
It's right there on the table in front of you.
It was a long time ago that you killed my father. I was a little girl then.
Lady, how you've grown up, complete with a gun and a murderous desire to kill me.
I've had that desire for a long time. Ever since I found my father dead. Murdered.
Go on, Miss Loring. What then?
You know as well as I do. And being charming and flip won't help.
Now, look, Miss Loring. Maybe you've got the wrong man. Have you thought of that? After all, you said I seemed to be much younger than you thought I'd be.
All I know is that you went after the Hangley jade. No one else in the world but you would want that piece. No one else would know what it means.
That's circumstantial evidence, Miss Loring.
Stay where you are. We're through talking, Mr. Holliday. Or shall I call you Benson?
You can call me anything you like, but think before you squeeze that trigger.
I've thought quite a lot. Now, I'm going to take the jade.
All right. Here. Take it.
Giving it to me won't solve everything. Stay there. No, don't.
With a slam at the door, Miss Loring was gone, and so was the Hangley jade. And so was a piece of my coat where the bullet from her gun ripped through it. But I had the gun. Maybe it could be traced. But first, I had to see a man about a piece of jade at 721 South Ferry Street.
Yes, who is it?
Holiday.
All right, just a minute.
Come on in. Now, give me the Hangley piece.
I'm sorry, but you're about a half hour too late.
What are you talking about?
Well, I haven't got it.
Maybe this will show you I don't like jokes.
Now, look, whatever your name is, take that gun out of my ribs. I'm developing an allergy.
Give me the Hangley piece.
What if I told you a girl who called herself Greta Loring took it away from me?
What? Loring? You have that name right?
I have every reason to remember it, but good.
Where is she?
I don't know.
Will you... All right. Turn around, face the window.
Now, look, fella, this
Turn around. Now, where did that girl go?
I told you I don't know.
How did she find you?
The same way you did. She was in Quan Hai's shop this afternoon.
Uh-huh. Okay, Mr. Holliday. Thank you for running that errand for me.
And now, back to Box 13 and Dan Holliday's newest adventure, The Treasure of Hang Lee.
It was a nice hit over the top of my head. When the birds and the bees left my skull, I sat up. The room was dark. I started to get to my feet when...
You're feeling better, Mr. Holliday?
Huh? Mr. Quan?
Oh, I am flattered you recognize my voice. But you are feeling better?
Except for a new head, I couldn't ask for anything more.
I'm sorry I did not arrive in time to save you that inconvenience.
Mm-hmm. But now that you are here, why?
Why am I here? I came to see your friend.
Today I have no friends.
Wait a moment. I shall turn on the light.
Well, I could use some.
Here we are.
Mostly on what's going on.
Yes, here. You gave our friend the Hung Lee jade?
Now, wait a minute.
Just a moment. Before you answer, you had better look in this little alcove. Look, Mr. Holliday.
Who's that? He's dead.
Yes. Quite dead. Stabbed in the back.
But he's not the man I came here to see.
I'm afraid not. I wish he were.
Well, then who is this?
One of the men I have been seeking for 10 years.
10 years? Look, Mr. Kwan, I have a large headache. You're no aspirin with your Chinese puzzles.
The man you came to see was named Benson.
That doesn't help.
The dead man there is a man named Fisher.
And what about a man named Loring?
Oh, you know a man named Loring.
I met his daughter today.
Ah, his daughter. Now I am beginning to see. But I presume you gave Mr. Benson the Hung Lee jade you got from me today?
I did not. Mr. Loring's daughter relieved me of it.
She has it?
You know she has.
I have only your word for that.
That's all you're going to get, Mr. Kwan.
I think you mean that. Very well, Mr. Holliday. I shall have to leave now.
Oh, no, you don't. There's a murdered man here. How do I know you didn't kill him?
That is a reasonable question. You have only my word that I did not kill him.
And you'll go with me to the police. Oh, it's funny, huh?
No. I was thinking of something, a proverb. And being Chinese, I am permitted one proverb.
I've got one for you, Mr. Kwan. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Right now, you're the number one bird.
Very good, Mr. Holliday. But my proverb is more to the point. Two men of different minds must soon say goodbye.
We're going to the police, Mr. Kwan.
You leave me no alternative but this.
Would you use that gun?
I'm afraid I would, if you tried to stop me. But please, do not blame me, Mr. Holliday. This is the fault of my ancestors.
Your ancestors?
They invented gunpowder. Goodbye.
And so there I was, but where? I called the police and reported the murder without giving my name. I didn't want to stick around because I had other things to do. I had a bullet hole through my coat and out of my head and a big burning desire to catch up with Mr. Benson and Miss Loring. Not to mention a certain Mr. Kwan. The only lead I had was Greta Loring's gun that I'd taken from her. If she had bought it in the city, it would be registered. So I made one more phone call and found out what I wanted. Her address. It was in an apartment building. And her apartment was number 8. I pressed the buzzer.
Yes, who...
Good evening, Miss Loring.
How did you find me?
Oh, I had to. I always return things that I borrow. I believe this is your gun.
What are you going to do?
Play questions and answers.
Please, get out of here.
This afternoon, you called me a murderer. Why?
I thought you were someone else.
Who? Benson?
Yes.
Oh, but I'm not.
I know that now.
Oh, now she tells me. After she puts a bullet through my coat. You know, Miss Loring, 2 inches higher and you'd have had yourself a corpse. Me. I dislike being a corpse. Now you'll talk.
Benson killed my father in China 10 years ago.
It seems he also killed a man called Fisher.
David Fisher?
David or not, he's just a number at the morgue by now.
Then Benson is still alive.
I think he is.
And you came here.
Well, of course, why not?
Oh, don't you see what you've done?
Done?
Think about it.
Oh. He wouldn't know where to find you, but I told him I'd met you. And he'll keep track of me.
And come here.
Listen, have you still got that Hang Leek's jade?
Yes.
Well, he wants that. If you give it to him, maybe he'll go away.
My father was killed because he had the Hang Lee piece.
What is there about that piece?
There were 3 pieces, all part of the same screen. It was something about a treasure.
Mm-hmm. And the carving on the screen would lead to the treasure.
Yes.
You have 1 piece. Benson has the other 2. One he killed your father to get, the other he killed Fisher to get.
And he'll come here after this 3rd piece.
Hey, come on, we've got to get out of here. Wait, where's your phone?
Well, right there, but...
I'm going to call the police.
Not yet, Mr. Holliday.
Kwan.
Yes, I followed you, Mr. Holliday. Then, because I fear Miss Loring would not extend her hospitality to me, I came up the fire escape.
Quan, my father told me...
Miss Loring, yes. Your father, Fisher, and Benson killed an old Taoist priest in China to get the Hung Lee screen and its secret.
My father never killed anyone.
I'm afraid he did.
But there are 3 pieces off the screen.
Yes, Mr. Holliday. The 3 men did not trust one another. They broke the screen up into 3 pieces. One valueless without the other 2.
Why? Why did they do that?
Because they had to leave China and go their separate ways. They arranged to meet later.
But Benson killed Loring.
Yes, but Loring did not have his piece of the Hung Lee. I got it before Benson got to him.
And you put the piece in the window to trap Benson. Why, Mr. Quan? Why?
The Taoist priest was my honorable father.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know that.
I'm sure you did not. I have been all over the world, waiting, hoping that sooner or later the murderers of my father would trap themselves. 2 are dead, and the 3rd...
Benson?
Yes, Benson.
He...
Must be Benson.
You let him in, Mr. Holliday.
Let him in, or you crazy Quan. He's a killer.
I said let him in 1 moment. I will take that gun you put on the table, Mr. Holliday. Give it to me.
Take it.
Thank you. Now I have 2 guns. Mr. Benson probably has 1. Let him in, Mr. Holliday.
If you think I'm going to open that door and let him in, you're crazy.
I have 2 guns. Are you afraid, Mr. Holliday?
All right. Just Loring, get back. Next to the wall. Now.
You. Get back in there.
Better not come in, Benson.
Move away now. Who's that?
Come in, Mr. Benson. Come in.
Holliday, stand in front of me. Right where you are. All right? Go ahead and shoot.
I would hit Mr. Holliday.
That's right.
I'm sorry, Mr. Holliday, but you seem to have been caught between the dragon and the tiger.
I want that Hang Lee piece.
I'll give it to him.
Yes, do that, Miss Loring. Give it to him.
Benson, you've already killed 2 men.
The 3rd won't make any difference. The Hang Lee piece, Miss Loring. On the table.
There. Take it.
Good enough. All right, Holliday, move in front of me. Always in front of me. Now stop. Hand me the jade. You, Miss Loring, hand it to me. That's it. Now I'm going to move back toward the door. If you shoot, Holliday gets it. Stop right here.
Mr. Holliday, my life means nothing because I have devoted it to this moment. But I regret this inconvenience to you.
Quan, think what you're doing. Benson won't get away. The police will have his description and be picked up within an hour.
Nice dreaming, Holliday.
Mr. Quan, don't. Stay where you are.
I regret, Mr. Holliday. Twist away quickly! Twist away!
Mr. Holliday!
I'm all right. I got out of the way. But...
Mr. Benson has gone to his ancestors.
Mr. Quan, are you all right?
Yes. He's quite all right, thank you.
You're hit. Miss Loring, call the doctor faster.
No, please. The 3 pieces of the screen. Give them to me. You will find 2 of them in Mr. Benson's pocket.
Look, Mr. Quan, you're hurt badly. You've got to have a doctor.
No, that would do no good. Old Chinese proverb. Greatest coward is he who fears death.
I'm sorry, Mr. Quan.
The Hung Lee pieces. Please, put them together.
All right. There they are.
The treasure of Hung Lee. Right here.
Treasure? But...
Not gold. My people learned centuries ago that real treasure is not gold. Of Hung Lee is written here in jade. That happy is the man who is contented with his lot.
Mr. Quan. Mr. Quan. It's all right, Miss Loring. Mr. Quan is contented.
You mean that was all there was to the treasure, Mr. Holliday? Just that proverb?
That's right, Susie. Maybe it's the best after all. You see, we beat our brains out going after something, and when we've got it, The thing on the other side of the hill always looks better.
Happy is the man who is contented with his lot. Gee, you know something, Mr. Holliday?
What, Susie?
I can't think of anything silly to say.
That's as it should be. Good night, Susie.
Next week, same time, through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd stars as Dan Holliday in Box 13. Box 13 is directed by Richard Sandville, with this week's original story by Mark Hopling. Original music is composed and conducted by Rudy Schrager. Part of Susie is played by Sylvia Picker, and production is supervised by Vern Karstensen. Box 13 is a Mayfair production from Hollywood. Watch for Alan Ladd in his latest Paramount picture.
Welcome back. I think that Mr. Kwan has been my favorite guest character of the entire series. At least who's been sane. The insane ones have been entertaining. But this character was definitely very well played. They didn't have detailed credits on Box 13, but definitely hats off to them. And to me, I think this does show one of the great strengths of the detective genre, where at its best there's somewhat of a message behind it, particularly in a hard-boiled story like this, because the message of the story flows from the events of it. The one challenge you get kind of with the less intellectual detectives, or the more intellectual detectives, is the crimes are not seen as having the same impact, because it's played more as a game. So that's another thought on this. Well, clearly, CBS did not give up on the idea of Jeff Regan as a radio show after Webb left. They were ready to bring it back in September of 1949. I think one thing was probably apparent to the folks at CBS, and that was that they couldn't just try to continue on the settings and everything with the way they had been with Jack Webb. It had not really worked out all that well for KGO with Pat Novak for hire when they replaced Webb with Ben Morris. Rather, they needed a different characterization, and they needed to change up the formula just a little bit. So this episode comes from October of 1949, and it's the third in the series, and it's definitely quite a bit different. The lead in the show is a young guy by the name of Frank Graham. Graham had a wide and varied career in radio and movies. Over radio, he was known as the man of 1,000 voices. And he did what was known as the night car yarns and yarns for Yanks, where he would do basically 15-minute one-man radio plays, doing all the voices. He was very good. He and Paul Frees were one of two sets of actors that I'm aware doing that. He was in some pretty obscure cartoons doing voice work there. Probably his most famous role was as the narrator in Three Caballeros from Disney. Over the radio, he was producer of several shows, including the horror series Satan's Waitin'. And also he created the radio series Cosmo Jones, which was made into a serial called Cosmo Jones Crime Smasher. Really, the voice that Graham uses here for Regan reminds me quite a bit of Dick Powell. That kind of gives a different feel to the performance. So we're going to get into that in just a second. Before that, I do want to let you know about our sponsors. It can be a challenge to grow your business. It seems there are a never-ending list of activities that eat into limited time. That's why I'm so glad to bring GoToMeeting on as a sponsor, because GoToMeeting allows you to do more with the time you have. Whether it saves you a plane trip to Japan or a trip across town, GoToMeeting saves you time on travel. It can also give you greater flexibility in your scheduling. With GoToMeeting, you can have a meeting with clients in Los Angeles and then immediately afterwards be able to connect with vendors in San Diego through the convenience of GoToMeeting web conferencing. Listeners to the great detectives of old-time radio can try GoToMeeting free for 45 days. For this special offer, visit GoToMeeting.com/podcast. That's GoToMeeting.com/podcast. And now let's go ahead and get into today's episode, The Lady from Brazil.
My name's Regan. I work for Anthony J. Lyon, International Detective Bureau. They call me the Lion's Eye.
Wednesday at 9, and CBS brings you Jeff Regan, Investigator, starring Frank Graham as Regan with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. So stand by for mystery and suspense and adventure in tonight's story of The Lady from Brazil.
Her name was Irene Centino. The lady from Brazil, the Lion called her. He figured it for an easy trace job. Something for missing persons, only when we do them, the Lion gets paid. Yeah. The program said it was simple. Except before we wound it up, there were a couple of added attractions. A doctor who didn't do any doctoring, a nurse with a built-in temperature, and a couple of blackouts that were meant to be permanent. And guess what? In that last part, I was supposed to be the star. Anyhow, it all began late last Monday. I was home. My boss, Anthony J. Lyon, knocked on my door. And that's when I made my first mistake. I let him in.
Regan, I'm glad I found you in. I'm just on my way home from the office.
You could have kept on going. I'm out of Johnny Walker.
Oh, now, Regan, I didn't come by just for that. You got anything else?
No.
All right. As a matter of fact, I want your advice, Regan.
Cut out starches and get some exercise. What else?
What would you do if you traveled 10,000 miles just to see your sister and then couldn't find her?
I'd give up the search.
You would? Why?
I haven't got a sister.
Oh, that's not what I'm talking about. You'd go to missing persons, wouldn't you? Sure you would. But if you knew your family in a foreign country would become greatly alarmed at this sort of notoriety, you'd look for your sister in another way. You'd hire a good private detective. Now, isn't that right?
Come on, Fatso, put it on the road.
What do you mean? I'm just posing a simple problem.
And you've got an angle somewhere.
All right, we have a new client. Her name's Irene Centino. She's from Brazil, Rio. Fine family, Regan. Coffee. She's engaged international to locate her younger sister, Carmen.
I'm no St. Bernard.
You'll do till I can feed one. Oh, now, I know you've been working hard lately, but, Regan, this is one of those occasions when I'm proud to be a part of our profession. We have an opportunity to help a young lady in desperate straits and at the same time secure goodwill from South America.
Ever hear of the State Department?
Of course I have, but they can't do it all alone. It's up to individual citizens to take responsibility, too.
And that's the only reason you want me to find a sister?
Absolutely. Now, Miss Centino is taking an apartment at this address. Here, go see her, comfort her, let her know International and the United States of America will do everything possible to locate her lost sister.
Yeah. That all?
That's enough.
What'd she pay you?
$200.
That's a lot of green to get in advance.
Well, she insisted. She's very anxious to find that girl.
Watch out her check doesn't bounce.
It won't. She paid cash.
That $200 was already making a lump in the Lion's coat, and I knew the next spot for it was his mattress. Well, maybe that's the reason he's a bachelor. I left him in my place and drove over to the address he'd given me. It was one of those Beverly Hills apartments with a long, glassy look, like a greyhound with a sore stomach. Irene Centino's apartment was on the second floor. She was a tall, brown-haired girl without a smile. She wore glasses. And when she talked, she sounded sad, like a banjo player with a paper pick.
Thank you so much for coming over, Mr. Regan. I've been very upset all day. I just had to do something about Carmen.
Your sister?
Yes. She's the one I came to California to see.
I heard.
It's an awful vacant feeling. I thought she'd meet me at the airport, and then she wasn't there. And when I went to her address, we were very close.
She's from Rio, too?
Yes.
How's
yes.
her English?
The same as mine. We were both educated in the United States.
You older than Carmen?
Yes, 2 years. She's 25 now. Carmen left home a year ago. She's always been very independent. And, I received this letter from her a few days ago. It was the first word since she left home.
It came this way?
Yes.
No envelope?
Oh, I threw that away. She wrote her address there at the end, and I didn't see any need for keeping the envelope.
And she wasn't at this address?
There isn't any such address.
What does Carmen look like?
Well, I gave her a snapshot to Mr. Lyon. Didn't he give it to you?
He forgets things.
Well, no matter. I have another. Of course, it's old and not very good. I think it's right here in the suitcase. You'll pardon things strewn all over. I haven't had time. Here. There you are.
See. She's blonde?
A little lighter than mine. The same height, too. We used to wear each other's clothes. Oh, Mr. Regan, you will be able to find her, won't you?
I don't think you want me to.
Mr. Regan, are you trying to be funny?
You hand me a snapshot so old it could be anybody, and a letter that says nothing, and you want me to turn up a blonde.
But I thought those would be leads. She mentions the name of her doctor.
Is he the man?
Man?
She left home a year ago. She wasn't following the crops. There was a man in it. I've got to have it all, lady.
All right. There was a man. His name was Frank Martin. I met him once in Mexico City. She thought she was in love with him. He lives out on Laurel Avenue.
You talked to him?
No. But I asked questions around. I'm completely satisfied he knows nothing about it. Perhaps if you'd see the doctor, my sister mentioned...
You want me to find your sister?
Yes?
But you don't want me to see this Frank Martin.
I didn't say that.
You didn't have to, lady. Okay. You'll get a report when I've got something. Just one more thing.
What's that?
How long did you stop off on the way to shop in New York?
Why? What makes you think I'd do that?
When you leave your clothes strewn around the label show. There's no Saks Fifth Avenue in Rio. When I walked out, her mouth was wide open like she was trying to scream. Only nothing came out. I hung around outside the door for a minute to see if she'd use the phone, but nothing happened. I looked up Frank Martin in the city directory and drove over to Laurel. A 2-story apartment building the color of a bride's blush. It was wrapped around a swimming pool. Too small for people and too big for birds. Martin's name wasn't on the mailbox, so I looked up the manager.
You don't know me, do you, Pilgrim?
Well, I just got here.
I played the Palace in 26. Oh, them were the days.
Write it up and sell it to the movies.
Them slobs. Central Casting called me in 4 years.
Got a card?
Afros, SAG, and the Musicians Union. I play French horn. None of them call me. I figure it's television. No union yet.
I'm looking for a man named Frank Martin.
Now, look, if you got trouble, stay away from Frank. He bruises easy.
And you're just a mother to him.
He's a nice laddie. Now, remember when I tell you.
Sure.
All right. Come on. I'll show you.
Thanks.
That's him. Up there.
He stays in one key.
All the time. A low one.
You said that once.
Well, here we are. You know, I kind of like you. You get around. Ever run into Mervyn Leroy?
Not yet.
If you do, mention my name, will you?
Sure. What is it?
Just say that Trixie Finnegan was asking for him. He'll remember old Trixie.
How could he forget?
You're not a whooping, you know.
Come on in. It's unlocked.
Your name Frank Martin?
Yeah, who wants to know?
My name's Regan. I'm a private investigator with the International Detective Bureau.
Wrong steer, Gumshoe. I don't need one.
I'm not looking for work. I'm looking for you.
What'd you say it was? Regan?
Yeah.
R-E-G-A-N? Regan. Regan. Just wrote that one. Pretty cute, eh?
I'm looking for a friend of yours, Carmen Centino.
Oh. How is Carmen these days?
I don't know.
But you said you were a detective.
I did.
You sound like an amateur to me.
You sound like a guy with a chip on his shoulder.
You sound like a lot of things. You're trying to get tough, baby.
It figures out when your name isn't on the mailbox.
Yeah?
Nobody would ever write you.
I'll just skip that, Regan. Well, who hired you to do what?
My sister's in town. She's looking for Carmen.
I know Carmen had a sister. What else?
You're the boyfriend.
Boyfriend. It's real good. Let me tell you what she's like, Regan. Eyes just right. Hair just right. Everything just right. Wait till you see her in a bathing suit. That's something, brother.
She isn't wearing one in this picture.
Let's see. No, it's a bad picture, Regan. Hardly looks like her, like she is. Ever met him like that? Well, we're going to be married, Regan. Only she decided all of a sudden she didn't want to. Just like that. It was her idea. Haven't seen her since.
You try?
Once. She moved, no forwarding address. That's all.
Makes good story.
Yeah, but you don't believe it. Let me tell you the reason we broke up. It's a dilly.
My hearing's good.
Well, you've heard about the happy couple. The guy keeps getting loaded, can't lay off. Well, this is different. This is the big switch.
Carmen.
Yeah, Carmen.
And why she was seeing a doctor?
Carmen, seeing a doctor? Look, why don't you get out of here? We don't like each other.
My sister thinks something might have happened to Carmen. She's scared.
Yeah, some of us are scared part of the time. When somebody makes a lot of noise looking for somebody, then everybody gets scared. You scared, Regan?
Yeah.
What about?
Carmen Santino. I might be looking too late. Well, what he gave me filled in the cast, but the plot wasn't getting any clearer. So I looked up the doctor Carmen had mentioned in her letter. His name was Kingston, and the only address was a place out in Encino. It was a ranch house spilled all over the top of the hill like whipped cream. Figured he was getting oversealing for his pills. I parked my car by the gate, followed the flagstones up to the front door. When I pressed a button, I heard something that sounded like chamber music. And then a blonde girl wearing a red dress that must have been riveted on opened the door about the middle of the second chorus.
Oh, I like blue serge. Has an effect on me.
It's the only thing in the closet.
You fill it out nice. But you don't look sick.
I want to see the doctor anyway.
Come on in. We'll talk about it. Ah, you are tall, Mr.
Regan.
Regan.
Who are you, Florence Nightingale?
I hold the doctor's stethoscope. My name's Vivian Lytell.
Mind telling him I'm here?
He's busy. He just opened another bottle.
Well, I'm right on time.
Oh, Rex isn't sociable like me. He drinks alone. He gets more that way. Let me entertain you.
Easy, Angel. I don't know how to fix a fracture.
I've already got a man who can do that. I want one with brains.
What's the matter with the doctor?
Keeps his in a bottle. Hasn't used them for a long time now.
He's done all right.
This? He'd be selling papers if his wife hadn't left him a good insurance policy.
Don't you like his money?
Oh, don't get me wrong. It's just that the girl has feelings, too.
Yeah, they show.
I'm glad I met you. We're going to have some nice afternoons.
I thought you worked for a living.
Got lots of free time. Besides, I should have at least one outside interest.
Keep looking. You'll find one.
You smile good, but you talk nasty.
I only came to see Kingston.
Well, there's always the phone. Call and make an appointment. Now, get out.
Oh, Vivian, I didn't know you had company. I'll talk to you another time.
Just a minute, Doctor. This is Mr. Regan.
Huh?
He's your company, but he doesn't have a business card.
Oh. Well, look, Mr. Regan. I'm no longer in practice, just doing research on my own. I have all the medical equipment I can use. I turned all my patients over to another doctor.
I know one you forgot.
Well, tell me who.
Carmen Santino.
Carmen.
Go ahead, Vivian. I'll speak to Mr. Regan.
Watch yourself, Rex. He doesn't know how to be nice.
Will it take a minute?
I'll crack some ice. You'll need a drink.
She's a very fine nurse.
Yeah. It's a nice uniform.
Well, working on my own, very casual. You said I had a patient named Carmen... what was it?
Carmen Santino.
I'm afraid you're mistaken, Mr. Regan. Who told you that?
Well, I read about you in a letter.
That must have been another Kingston.
There's only one with a license.
You're a relative of the girl's?
Friend.
You're a detective, aren't you?
Yeah. Want to show me your files someday?
Why not today? This way, I keep them right here in my lab. Help yourself, Mr. Regan. Oh, you want a drink?
Too early.
You don't mind if I have one?
Your house.
Didn't find anything?
Not under Santino. She could have used another name.
No, that's possible. When was I supposed to have treated her?
Well, about a year ago, according to this letter. Here, this is a picture.
No. Oh. I've never treated anyone who looks like that.
Sure?
Positive. What was her illness?
Might have had something to do with that stuff you're drinking. They die from it sometimes.
I see. You can't see it from this window. But just over the hill, my wife is buried. I had special permission from the county, of course, bury her on my property. She was a great comfort to me. We were very close. I haven't been the same since she passed away. And that is why I am no longer in practice.
I didn't ask for that.
Oh, but you did, with your eyes. You're a strange man. Do you enjoy making a living this way, prying into other people's lives, searching for what is best left alone?
Is he still here, Rex?
Yes, Vivi. He's just leaving. You can find your way?
Yeah.
Oh. Bye, Blue Serge. You were a real disappointment.
Don't give up. I'll be back.
Don't bother, Regan. The doctor will be out.
The whole thing looked phony, like a fan dancer in long underwear. But when I left the two of them, I was beginning to get an idea, just beginning. I walked over the side of the hill to look at that grave. It was there, all right, like he said. Irene Kingston, 1922, 1948. Well, maybe that explained it. Maybe it didn't. I was remembering those New York labels I'd seen on my clients' clothes. I called up a friend of mine in the CAA. He checked into it and told me nobody named Santino had come in from Rio on any flight in the last week. And the immigration people didn't have a passport or visa record on her either. I was home thinking about all this when my phone began ringing. It was Irene Santino, and she did all the talking.
I tried to get you at your office, Mr. Regan, but no one answered. I had to speak to you.
What about?
I phoned Carmen.
Say that again?
I phoned Carmen. Or rather, Carmen found me. I feel foolish now, calling you people in and all that. She came right to my apartment. Can you imagine she's been looking for me? Please thank Mr. Lyon for his kindness. And, Mr. Regan.
Yeah?
It's all confidential. I wouldn't want any of this to get to the wrong people.
You know some of the wrong kind?
Doesn't everyone? Well, goodbye.
Oh, Regan, you run any expenses on this Santino thing?
No.
Good. It's all over.
How do you know? She just phoned me.
Just came from missing persons. There's a cop there named Perini. Got an eye like an eagle. Had that other picture of the Santino dame with me. He took one look at it and opened up a file.
What kind of file?
Dead and unclaimed.
What do you mean?
The county buried her. Carmen Santino's been dead a year.
This is CBS, and you are listening to The Story of the Lady from Brazil, tonight's adventure with Jeff Regan, investigator.
Well, it figured somebody was having nightmares. I didn't say anything to the Lion and went down to the Hall of Records. There was a little guy sitting at the desk in vital statistics. His fingernails were dirty, and that wasn't a Harry Drucker haircut he was wearing. He was reading a dictionary, and he must have been at a good part, because he looked mad when I nudged him.
No, we're not in a bus, buddy, so just quit shoving.
I want some information.
Public servant, that's what I'm here for. What kind of information
Death
do you want?
files.
You're such a morbid guy. Got lots of stuff on births and marriages. Why don't you ask me something about them?
A girl named Carmen Santino died about a year ago. Tell me, what from?
Okay, take it easy. How do you spell it?
Just like it sounds.
Santino, huh? Yeah, Santino. What's that? Sabatini, Sailor, Sanaki, Sanford. That's what happened to old Sandy. No wonder I ain't seen him around lately.
Get to Santino.
Oh, yeah, Santino, yeah. Yes. Santino. Date of death, 15 October 1948. Cause of death?
Alcoholic poisoning.
Yeah, that's right. How'd you get it?
Never mind. Who signed the certificate?
Rex J. Kingston, M.D.
Okay. Now, here's one more for you. Look up Irene Kingston.
The doc's wife?
Look it up.
Okay, yes. Let's see. Kingsley. Oh, yeah. Kingston, Irene, 13 October 1948.
Cause of death?
You guessed it again.
The same. Alcoholic poisoning. Hey, this guy couldn't keep a patient.
Well, that filled it in. I could see the plot, but I wasn't sure of the ending. So I didn't waste any time getting over to Irene Santino's place. But I wasn't fast enough. The door was halfway open when I got there. All the company had left, but Irene was still around. She was sitting there looking at the phone like it was all she had to think about.
Miss Reed.
What's so funny?
Excuse me for not getting up, but I didn't expect you. I told you I found my sister, didn't I?
You told me, but you didn't tell me she was dead.
I didn't even tell you that I haven't got a sister. Did I? Did I?
Come on, lady, give it to me. What are you talking about?
There's still a red spot on my arm. It doesn't look like much, does it? But you just wait, Mr. Regan. You just wait. You just wait.
I found a doctor on the floor below. He grabbed his black bag and went to work on her. She quieted down to a slow, inside giggle, then went out all the way. The doctor got a hold of an ambulance and carted her off to a hospital. They just wheeled her out the door when the Lyon showed up.
Regan, did I see an ambulance out in front?
That's right. Your client was in it.
Huh?
Somebody stuffed her full of something that made her giggle.
I don't understand all this at all. I stopped by home to change to my dark suit so I could come by and bring Miss Santino the news of her sister's death. And what do I walk
You can
into?
save your tears, Fatso. She didn't come from Brazil and she wasn't rich.
That woman gave me $200 cash. There was nothing unreliable about her. We had a contract.
Well, New Year's coming up. You can use it for confetti.
Now, see here, Regan.
Look at this picture.
Irene Santino. I have one just like it.
All right, draw some glasses on it. Add about 6 or 7 years.
I don't understand you, Regan. We're talking business, and all at once we're playing games.
Look, when I came to see her tonight, she wasn't wearing her glasses. She looked a lot like the dame in this picture.
Well, of course she did, naturally. That's her own sister.
She never had a sister.
Never had a sister? Then who did the county bury?
That's what I'm going to find out from a certain Dr. Kingston.
I had a feeling you'd be back. I built a fire.
I forgot the marshmallows.
We'll think of something else. I'm not mad anymore.
I'm still looking for your doctor.
Let me take care of you. I have a way with men.
Didn't we do all this once before?
Well, it's night now. I'm better with the lights low. You can ask me some questions. I know some swell answers.
I'll bet.
How do you like it?
Your way.
That's better. Now let's have a nice, quiet evening. Just you and me.
That why you wore that?
You like it?
You got talent, lady.
Well, discover me. There's been a famine of men like you.
You don't look underfed.
Come on, you haven't touched your drink.
I want to see him.
Oh, all right. We could have had such a nice evening. Rex.
What is it?
Mr. Regan's here again.
Oh, yeah. Hello, Regan. Didn't I tell you I'd be out?
You told me that, but you didn't tell me what I wanted to know. I had to go to Vital Statistics to get it.
What?
You don't have anything in your files about Carmen Santino, but you signed her death certificate.
Now, you get this, Regan. I don't have to talk to anyone who comes here without a warrant, and you haven't got one.
When I tell the city attorney's office what I've got, they'll have somebody out here to open that grave on the hill.
What do you mean, Regan?
Irene Kingston died 2 days before Carmen Santino of the same thing. Dr. Kingston signed both certificates, and he collects on his wife's insurance. Only I don't think his wife really died. I think that extra grave on the hill is window dressing.
My wife didn't die, Regan. Where is she now?
I don't know. But she could be around town using the name of Irene Santino. It was a shot in the dark, but it brought results. Kingston swung a lamp base around that connected on the side of my head. When I came to, I was in a white room in the back of the house. Nothing worked.
Irene,
So I
will you
just lay
please
there.
bring a bottle?
Vivian was standing there with Kingston.
Oh,
He looked sick, like an ostrich with a sore throat.
Please, Irene.
He had a needle in his hand.
I got the shakes.
You do it all right, Rex. Go ahead.
It's the same treatment you two tried to give Irene.
Should have stayed out, Regan.
I wanted one more look at you,
I
baby.
hate to see the nice ones go, but it'll be all over in a minute. All right, Rex.
Give me a drink, Vivian. I gotta have a
It
drink.
won't help. I found Irene in time. She's in a hospital.
What?
She's going to live. She's going to talk.
Oh,
Irene's
Rex.
still alive?
Rex, give it to him, and then we'll clear out.
I didn't kill her.
I didn't kill
You'll
her.
do better this time.
I can't.
Go ahead.
No, I won't.
I said go ahead. I'll shoot you, Rex. I'll shoot you if you don't.
No, you won't. It's all over, Vivian. It's all over.
But Kingston was too much for her. All of a sudden, it began going off. Vivian started to look pale. Then she went down, slow.
She deserved that.
Haven't you going to tell the state?
Regan, is Irene really going to live?
That's what the doctor says.
Oh, good. Regan, look, no, don't try to move. I gave you a shot of preparatory solution. You won't be able to move for another hour. I suppose I ought to run.
You won't get far.
I know. Listen to me. Irene is my wife. She's innocent of all this. When you tell the police the real story,
I haven't got it all. I know it started with Carmen Santino.
Oh, she stumbled in one night, dropped dead before I could do anything.
Alcohol.
Yeah. Before she died, she kept talking about a man named Martin.
Lives over on Laurel.
But I didn't get in touch with him. I had a better idea. She looked a great deal like my wife, Irene. It was really quite remarkable.
The insurance.
Yeah. Irene didn't want to do it, but she loved me, so she finally agreed to hide out in New York. I used one body for 2 death certificates, buried an empty box up on the hill. I was supposed to join Irene later. We were going to start a new life together.
Vivian.
Yeah. Vivian came along. I was drinking one night. She found out the truth. I was trapped. Would have stayed that way if Irene hadn't hired you.
Well, it figures she made up that story about a sister from Brazil just to scare you into getting rid of Vivian.
It worked, too. I'm scared stiff.
Yeah, like that guy Martin said. Somebody gets scared, and then you... Everybody.
Regan? Regan, can you hear me?
Huh? Oh, sorry. Stuff's making me sleep.
Yeah, that'll wear off. I'm going now, Regan. See that Irene gets a fair shake.
I'll try. He picked up a bottle and started out the door. He didn't even look down at Vivian's body on the floor. I tried to move, but like you said, nothing worked. It was more than 2 hours before I could get to the phone and call homicide. And it was more than 2 days before I talked to the Lyon.
Jeffrey, my boy, how you feeling? Better?
Well, the fog's gone out of my head, if that's what you mean. Otherwise, I feel lousy.
Oh, don't take it so hard, my boy. All in a day's work. Besides, there's the brighter side. Yes, indeed.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, they got that Dr. Kingston. He only got as far as Las Vegas. Crime doesn't pay, Jeffrey. Crime just does not pay.
Doesn't, huh? What's this?
Now, wait a minute. Give me that.
Application, Consolidated Insurance.
It's nothing, I tell you.
You mean to tell me you're going to try to collect rewards?
Well, we did expose an insurance fraud, and there's nothing in the world that stinks like a fraud.
I'll say.
Hey, wait a minute, Regan. Where are you going?
Out to buy an airwick.
Jeff Regan, Investigator, is written by E. Jack Newman, directed by Sterling Tracy, and stars Frank Graham as Regan, with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. Original music is by Dick Arant. Jeff Regan, Investigator, is heard each week at the same time over CBS. Bob Stevenson speaking, and inviting you to be with us again next Wednesday at 9 for more suspense and mystery and adventure with Jeff Regan, Investigator. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, I definitely like the characterization that Frank Graham brought to Regan. It made it a different character and it adds somewhat of a different feel to it than the Lost Lady did, even though it was basically the same general plot. Frank Nelson of the new Lyon, definitely a little bit more sympathetic of a character, and also somebody we can more easily see taking people. I think if there was one challenge with the other two Lions previously, is kind of they were kind of transparent. I like this Lion better. Is played much more, I think, sympathetically and much more believable fashion, and he actually does some work in finding out what the case is before sending Regan out, which I'm sure Regan appreciates. All right, I want to acknowledge briefly Chris becoming a premium member. Thank him so much for that nice tip. And we'll actually be having our premium content. It's going to be The Phantom of the Opera with Basil Rathbone coming up on Thursday for those of you with the app or with the premium content. That'll be available to you as an extra. Well, before we get started, I want to let you know about GoToMeeting. Today, rather than me telling you about the benefits, I wanted to share what someone who uses the service in their business has experienced. This is Rob Sykes, the president of Clarity, who writes, recently, I started the morning with a presentation in London, moved on to another presentation in New York, and later that evening I was presenting to Hong Kong. I'd covered 2/3 of the earth, sitting in my office using GoToMeeting. We save $5,000 to $10,000 a month in travel costs. That's the type of savings and benefit that GoToMeeting can bring to your business. So if you need to meet with people, whether it's across town or around the world, check into GoToMeeting. As a listener to the great detectives of old time radio, you can get a 45-day free trial. Go to gotomeeting.com/podcast. That's gotomeeting.com/podcast to start. Well, this week's episode of Let George Do It, the audio quality is not as good as in some weeks, but I did come up with the best I could find. But hopefully you'll be able to enjoy the plot just well. The title of this one is The Payoff is Murder.
Standard of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. The Payoff is Murder, another adventure of George Valentine.
Personal notice, changes my stock and trade. If it's touch and go with trouble and you want out, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full detail.
Dear Mr. Valentine, maybe you've heard of my husband, Johnny Wyatt. Just a notch higher than a club fighter. Big, strong boy who hasn't gotten anywhere. Well, Friday night he meets Pat Driscoll at the Christopher Arena, and the payoff is all set. But not if Johnny plays it my way. Then the payoff might be murder. Still, I want to take that chance. Maybe my reasons for this are a little cockeyed, but if you're interested, let's talk it over. And it's signed Doris Wyatt.
Christopher Arena, Brooksy. Sounds like old home week. Remember?
Remember? I had to sit there and watch you get worked over just to satisfy the ego of a vicious little gangster named Salvador.
Ah, the late Johnny Salvador. So now there's a Douglas Harger running all of his rackets. It's enough to make a growing boy turn cynical.
One thing's certain from Mrs. Wyatt's letter. The air around Christopher Arena still has an odor from here to there and back again.
Yeah. With Harger in the picture, the fight could very well be a fix. But why should an ever-loving wife want to change the payoff so it might read murder?
No, George, she admitted her reasons might sound a little cockeyed.
But just how cockeyed?
All right, Mr. Valentine, I'll tell you why I'm not going to let Johnny throw that fight Friday night.
Yeah, Mrs. Wyatt?
Because I've never had a mink coat.
Huh?
What's that? Exactly what I said, Miss Brooks.
Well, pardon my dunce cap, but if your husband played along with Hager, that would be about as short a cut to a mink coat as you'd want.
And you still don't seem to get it. The first time I ever saw Johnny was in a chorus line. I think I wanted a mink coat more than I wanted to breathe. And I could have had it even with a wedding band. But I picked Johnny. Doesn't it mean anything to you?
Yeah. You loved it.
It's more than that. For 10 whole years, I've had to stand by while he was getting his face pushed in. But at least he was always doing a clean, honest job. The only job he knew. But
how do you think we can help you if Johnny's made up his mind?
You can help me change it.
Now, wait a minute. Look, Hager and his crowd have already placed their bets. They're not going to let Johnny or anybody else cross them.
I know.
Anyway, this is a little out of my line, Mrs. Wyatt. I wouldn't know how to go about this.
And I wouldn't know what to tell you. Oh, maybe I've got a one-track mind. A gasoline station along the road, an auto court. And who knows, maybe we could still have a couple of kids. Funny where you can wind up dreaming of a mink coat. Sorry I bothered you, Mr. Valentine. Forget it.
Well, now, wait a minute. What do you think about this?
Hey, Doris! Doris! Oh, you got company, huh?
Where have you been, Johnny?
Training. You know, honey, Friday night, the big payoff.
Look at you. How much do you think you'll have to drink after Friday to forget what you did?
You know I'm only doing this for you, Doris. Hey, who are these people? We shouldn't be talking like this in front of them.
You don't have to worry about them.
Go on, get out, both of you, get out. I want to talk to my wife.
Might be a good idea if you did a little listening, Johnny.
Who are you to tell me what to do? I get enough of that. Get him out of here. Doris,
Is Mr. Valentine. I thought he could figure a way you could still fight an honest fight and not get hurt.
You mean you told him?
She was only thinking of you.
Get out. Get out.
Stop it, Johnny, stop it. This is one time your fists aren't going to help you. After the fight, I'm leaving you. For good.
What?
Leaving you.
Baby, 10 years. Things we had planned. This was going to be my last fight. Doris, you don't know what you're saying. Yeah, you can't do it.
Take it easy now. Here, fellas, sit down. Pull yourself together. Now, look.
Yeah.
If you're willing to try, I'll see if I can get you off the spot.
Oh, Jay, please listen to him. What about it, Johnny?
Go ahead, sister.
Okay. You think you got it in you to beat this Driscoll guy, Friday?
I think I can take him. Got at least one good fight left.
Good.
Besides, Driscoll thinks it's all fixed. He's been doing his training in the nightclubs. Oh, but there's nothing you can do about it now, Valentine. You don't double-cross Hager and get away with it.
Well, you didn't fix this thing, Johnny. It was Steve Heliano. Your manager did all the talking for you.
You got a contract with Helianos?
Sure, but I had no trouble getting out of that. He's been jipping me for years.
Well, what's the word, Johnny?
Just what you know it would be if I thought I was going to lose you.
Well, it looks like you've got another date at the Christopher Arena, George.
Yeah. Okay, we don't have much time. Get him under a cold shower, Doris. Fill him full of black coffee.
Yeah.
Where do you train, Johnny?
Murray's Gym, 8th Street. Hager took that place over from Salvador, too.
Well, don't go near the place. Use the gym at the YMCA until you hear from me.
What are you going to do?
See a man who has more reason than any of us to hate Hager and everything he stands for. A man who hated Johnny Salvador enough to kill him.
George, the bash.
But that guy's punch drunk. They got him locked away in a sanitarium.
Uh-huh. But I think he can still make the kind of sense that'll give us a fighting chance. Now, Brooksy.
Yes, George.
I'll pick you up at the office. Right now, it's time for a couple of characters to get a shock treatment.
Here, listen, my friend. Where do you get off telling me how to run my business? Aren't you forgetting? I am his manager.
As far as Johnny Wyatt is concerned, you're out of business, Helianos, as of now.
I'm warning you. Don't make things unhealthy for yourself.
Come now, Helianos. You're the one who's flirting with high blood pressure.
Don't get so excited.
But you heard what he said, Mr. Harger.
And everyone else will if you don't stop raising your voice. Besides, you know how sensitive I am to raucous voices. Now, if you'll just leave us alone, I'd like to talk to Mr. Valentine.
Sure, okay. But don't forget, I got a contract with Wyatt.
Yeah, sure. That piece of paper and a dime will buy you a cup of coffee. And if you have any complaints, take them up with the boxing commission.
You think I won, eh? Well,
Your tantrums are childish, Leonis.
Huh?
I'm afraid we both have to admit that round number 1 goes to this gentleman on points.
Thanks.
Well, gentlemen better stay out of my way. They don't want to wake up floating in its shore.
Hey, isn't that Pat Driscoll punching the bag over there?
Yes. You see him in one of his more conscientious moods. He's actually condescended to work out today.
Huh? Well, no wonder Wyatt is the top heavy favorite. You stand to really clean up if he does it for Brody.
When he does it. Which brings us to the crux of the matter, doesn't it, Mr. Valentine?
Yeah. But Johnny Wyatt is going to fight the best he knows how. No matter which way you're betting or what you intend to do.
I can't allow Wyatt to win. There's almost $250,000 involved.
Okay, what do you propose to do about it?
Unlike Helianus, I don't indulge in the regrets. I simply want to state a fact. If this bout does come off as planned, neither you nor Wyatt will have much time to enjoy the virtue's momentary triumph.
Well, now, that was the purpose of this little visit. Now we both know where we stand.
Mr. Hager, I understand that I's giving you some kind of trouble.
Trouble? Of course not, Driscoll. We were merely discussing business.
Yeah. I was trying to find out how to bet for Friday night. Mr. Hager here says you can't lose.
All right, I'm a sure thing, so what?
But I keep saying you can't win, Driscoll.
Huh?
Unless you got somebody in there to take a dive for you.
What's that? You know what I think I'm gonna do?
Hold it, Driscoll.
I'm gonna nail you one, sweetheart, and see how you look smashed down on the floor. Hey, look what the guy's done.
Who splashed on the floor?
I'm impressed, Mr. Valentine. If I weren't betting on that reclining gentleman, I'd be tempted to applaud.
Hey, buddy, I just see what you put on the right cross you got there. Anybody managing you?
Out of my way, Buster. I got places to go and things to do.
Put that right cross.
Now listen to Mr. Valentine carefully, Basher.
I'm listening. I get what you're saying.
Good, because this is very important.
Don't you see? This is your chance to win a big fight, not even have to go into the ring.
Well, how can I do that? Them keeping me here in the sanitarium.
Now, look, Basher, you know Hager took over where Salvador left off. And he's doing the same thing to other fighters as Salvador did to you.
He can't do that. Look where I am because of him. And I used to be champ. Champ.
We know that, Basher.
Now, please, get the story straight. Johnny Wyatt wants to make this his last fight. And he wants to do a clean, honest job on Driscoll.
I wish they'd let me in there. I'd show that young punk a couple of things.
Yeah, Bessie, yeah, I know. But you see, Wyatt's betting on himself. Every dollar he's got. His wife's depending on him, too.
All the money they've saved to buy a gas station, live a decent life, is on him to win.
Now, look, I'm no fight manager, and I want you to help me find the right trainer and things like that.
Yeah.
But most important, how does a guy like Hager operate? I want to call every move he makes before he even thinks of it.
Oh, okay. I'll put you straight. Already, Hager's way ahead of you.
What do you mean?
What's the odds for Friday night?
Why, it's 7-2 for Johnny Wyatt to win.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, Mr. Valentine. Before the fight, the odds are going to be even bigger for Wyatt. Hager will see that they are.
How can he do that, Basher?
Oh, a couple of stunts like he done with you in the gym today when you stopped Driscoll. He didn't have to hit the floor, but he did it so everybody would think he wasn't in shape. The part of the frame. And that gets in the papers and everybody bets on Wyatt. It's a short thing.
But, George, that means...
Yeah, I'm beginning to see what it means, Brooks.
The odds should be on Driscoll. He's young, he's smart, he just knew where to look. You see, they got Driscoll, and it's hard for this fight.
This puts me on the spot there,
Yeah, wow. It's an old deal. Salvador started doing it with me when I was getting washed up. I was 32. That was, 3 years ago.
Well, this is beginning to look like a work of art, George. Harger's got himself double insurance. If Johnny Wyatt doesn't throw the fight, Driscoll can probably beat him anyway.
Driscoll, smart kid.
Oh, boy, what a gold-plated goon guy I turned out to be. I let the Wyatts risk everything, their whole future on this fight.
You never can beat big boys like Harger when they got the fix on.
I know. Still, Johnny Wyatt's got to win Friday night. And I've got to make him. But how, Basher? How?
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. Meanwhile, a word about the well-tailored car. Whether your everyday motoring is in the Puget Sound area, along the Columbia River, or in the desert, there's one way you can be sure of command performance from your car. And that's by relying on high-octane Chevron Supreme gasoline. For this great premium quality fuel is climate-tailored to each different altitude and temperature zone in the West. That means wherever you motor, Chevron Supreme's blending agents command fast starts, command smooth acceleration, command the extra power that makes your car great on hills. Just try a tank full of Chevron Supreme tomorrow and enjoy the command performance it gives your car on the straightaway, in heavy traffic, and up the steepest hills. Remember, Chevron Supreme for command performance every mile of the way. Ask for it at standard stations and at independent Chevron gas stations where they say and mean, we'll take better care of your car. And now back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. You find yourself managing, of all things, a heavyweight fighter, Johnny Wyatt, at the end of the road, facing a younger, stronger man. If your boy wins, Harger or one of his mobsters will see that you pay with your life for the fortune they lose in bets. Yet Johnny and his wife are also betting everything they own that he gets the nod. So you're up a blind alley. If you're like George Valentine, you just put your head down and try to slug your way out.
You know, Harger, somebody must have pampered you when you were a boy. To think you can just walk into somebody's house and your very appearance is going to scare them to death.
Please, Mr. Valentine. I've been waiting for this moment. Let me do the talking.
And for once, Harger, I think you're going to do the listening. I doubt if you're going to feel like the same man when Mrs. Wyatt gets through describing you.
You keep talking about my Johnny as your boy. You think he's through and he'll do anything you tell him when he gets in the ring. But Johnny is my boy, too. This is his last fight, and he's going to fight it the way I want him to. We know what he's up against. But no soft-spoken piece of rubbish like you is going to change our minds.
Any questions, Mr. Harger?
No, just a mere statement, minus the dramatics. I thought it might carry greater weight stated in front of Mrs. Wyatt, who's supposed to love her husband.
No soft-spoken piece of rubbish is going to change our minds.
I admire models of virtue, Mrs. Wyatt, but only as curios you keep under glass.
Why don't you speak your piece and get back to your gilded gutter?
The simple fact remains. When I make a bet, there's always a payoff. Either in money or in that wasteful and businesslike operation known as violence.
But it's only been a couple of hours, Doris. Try to remember what you said.
I am.
Your exact words when Harger came in. Now, you did all the talking. He just stood there.
I'm trying to remember. I'm trying so hard.
Don't rush her, George. Maybe it'll come easier if you don't make her try so hard.
But we gotta get this right, Booksy.
First I remember saying, please, Mr. Valentine, I've been waiting for this moment.
Yeah, that's right. Then you said, let me do the talking.
And you said, and for once, Harger, I think
you're going to do the listening. Now we got it, Brooksy. Take all this down.
Okay, George, but I still want to know why.
Angel, this has to be the convincer. I've got to make Harger think I've got something on him. And before he realizes there's one important thing missing from the recording we're going to make.
Well, what's that?
Just his voice, Doris.
George, you'll never get away with it.
You just take the words down, Brooksy. Johnny and I have a date at the sanitarium with a basher.
I was champ once, Wyatt. Remember me, huh? Remember me?
Yeah, we all do, Basher. It's just too bad you had a guy like Salvador, him.
Shop talk and wait, Basher. But will you please look at those pictures? I had to do a lot of talking to get the...
Yeah. I'm watching every move he makes.
Well, this guy isn't going to get us anywhere.
Will you keep quiet, Johnny?
Yeah, I'm watching. I got it. You can turn this thing off now, Mr. Valentine. I got the answer.
Turn the projector off now, Mac, and put on the lights. Okay, what is it, Basher?
Being the champ like I was, I got Driscoll's witness, just like that. Johnny boy, you can murder that guy in the first round.
Me and how many bulldozers?
Go on, Basher.
Well, when the bell rings, Johnny boy, you rush to the middle of the ring with your books up, like Driscoll was the worst enemy you ever had.
You're not far from wrong.
You've seen him in them pictures. All you got to do is all of a sudden let your hands drop down by your side.
Yeah, you forgot to mention who carries me out.
Will you listen to him, Johnny?
When Driscoll comes in for the kill, he's wide open. You've seen it. That's when you give it to him, Johnny boy. But not with your right. not with your right.
Just how do you do it, Basher?
You throw your left at him. That's the way he's least expecting.
The only punch I got is my right cross. Everybody knows the only thing I can do with my left is chase off flies.
Like I said, least expecting. And the guy's got a glass jaw. You've seen it in the pictures. He won't know what happened to him.
Valentine, let's get out of here. If I do this punch he tells me, I'll get killed.
We'll talk about that later, Johnny. Thanks for your advice, Basher. And when you listen to this fight over the radio, you can say to yourself, it's just as though the Basher were in there fight.
Do like I said, Johnny, and you'll have him smelling the rosin before he knows what hit him.
Yeah, and I could also be reading the alphabet backwards from then on.
Do like your wife tells you. By that gas station. Don't end up like me, the champ.
Valentine, let's get out of here.
Sometimes I wake up in bed fighting my own shadow. And then I faint, and I give him a right cross and then a left.
So long, champ. And thanks again. Well, this is about it, Johnny. The last prelim is on out there. How do you feel? How does he look to you, Freddie? The Basher said you were the best trainer in the business.
I done the best I could with him, Mr. Valentine, in the short time we had. You gotta remember, Johnny ain't as young as he used to be.
Especially around the stomach, huh, Freddie? Horace, what are you doing here? You never want you to see me before a fight.
Oh, this time it's different, Johnny. I got you into this. The least I can do is kiss you. Good luck.
I just want to give this to Mr. Valentine.
Here's that briefcase you wanted, George.
Oh, thanks, Angel. I'm sure I'm going to need it.
I'm betting on you, Johnny.
Okay, Freddie, that's enough. Can't help me anymore.
Anything you say, Johnny.
So to see a wife like that, I'm just not good enough for her. I don't want her to see me on my face out there tonight. I end up that way, she'll never know whether I threw the fight or not.
Will you take it easy, Johnny?
Just like Joe Maloney, I'll better get your boy in a bathrobe.
All right. If it's going to be my last fight, I'm going to go in there and slug it out with Driscoll. Well, why are you guys looking at me that way? Come on!
You boys know the rules. Keep your punches up, fight clean, break clean.
Right.
Get back to your corners.
Okay, now, Johnny, I've only got a second, so listen. Fight this thing the way I want you to do it. It's your only chance.
I'm not taking that punch drunk's word.
Well, then take mine. Do it, and I'll even be happy to face Harger.
Hey, your mouthpiece, Johnny.
Go to it, Johnny.
What's the matter, boys? Come on in. Give it away. Don't worry, Grandpa. You're going to get it. Come on, boys. Get going.
Come on, then. My hand's hanging down. Make it quick and fast. Okay, sucker.
1, 2, 3. Somebody, quick, get the doctor and boxing division in here. Crystal, where you hurt?
Hey, where do you think you are going, friend? Don't think you are leaving this arena.
What's the matter, Helianus? When you got a gun in a man's back, no reason for your hand to shake like that.
Just excited. I cannot wait to see what is going to happen to you. Start walking.
Hey. Johnny had more left in him than you thought, didn't he?
What are you carrying in that briefcase, Valentine? Your last will and testament?
Yeah, something like that.
In here. This is Hager's office.
Come in, Mr. Valentine.
Sit down.
Thanks a lot.
If you remember, during our last conversation, there was a slight mention of a payoff, one way or another.
I have a very retentive memory, Mr. Hager, and you were very eloquent.
So why make with the fancy words, Mr. Harger? I know a couple of boys who can take care of him, but fast.
Why need we hurry, Helianus? Do you know how much you cost me tonight, Mr. Valentine?
I hope it was enough to send you to the poorhouse.
Not quite, but it was a serious blow.
Oh, yeah. I think you can afford it, all right. A lavish office like this, oil paintings, custom-built phonograph. So many, many luxuries guys like Basher don't have in a cemetery.
But what to do with you, Mr. Valentine? Of course, you must go, and eventually Mr. Wyatt, too. But how? If there's one thing I dislike, it's, let's say, crudity.
Oh, brother, leave it to you. Never at a loss for the right word. You mind if I put on a record I brought along?
I love good music.
Oh, well, then you ought to go nuts about this when you hear it played back.
Hey, what is he doing? He's got a gun in there.
Please, Helianus. You don't seem to understand how gentlemen like Mr. Valentine and I do business. Just what have you got there?
Suppose you listen, Hager. I'll put the needle down at random. But I think you'll get the general idea.
I hope it's Sibelius.
You keep talking about my Johnny as your boy. You think he's through and he'll do anything you tell him when he gets in the ring.
It's all there, Mr. Hager.
But Johnny is my boy, too. This is his last fight, and he's going to fight it the way I want him to.
If anything happens to me or Johnny, this will make sweet music in the PA beers.
Soft-spoken piece of rubbish.
You want to hear any more, Hager? Of course, you remember, this gets better as it goes along.
You know, you don't have to have a scientific trend of mind to know that RPM motor oil means low-cost car operation and longer engine life. But Mr. George L. Reed of Miami, Arizona happens to be scientific-minded, and this is what he says, quote, "As a mining man for 15 years, I have a pretty good idea of what proper lubrication means. For long life in your car motor, you must have absolute lubrication, and RPM really does the job. I'm sticking with RPM," unquote. I think you'll agree that Mr. Reed is a wise and practical man. And if you've been using RPM motor oil in your car regularly, you know why Mr. Reed prefers this premium quality motor oil. You know that RPM keeps your engine cleaner, fights off carbon, rust, lacquer, and other costly troublemakers. And you know that where ordinary oils fail on hot upper cylinder walls, RPM protects those hot spots at all times. So to give your car a longer life, get an oil drain and refill with RPM motor oil. Get RPM at independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations where they say and mean, we'll take better care of your car.
Well, come on, Hager, speak up. Do you want to hear any more?
I'm not one to fool myself, Mr. Valentine. You may have something on that record.
Oh, I can just as well play the rest of it, including your ill-advised threat. You know, violence. Shall I go ahead?
No, you needn't bother.
You mean you are going to let them get away with this, Mr. Harker? I will take care of him tonight, and this record too.
To be honest, sometimes I despair of you. You're so petulant.
Huh?
Do you think Valentine would walk in here with the only copy of that record?
I got 1,000,000 of them, Helianus, and they all tell the same story. Well, it was nice knowing you.
Mr. Harker, just leave him to me.
Tell me where you are. The gentleman and I have made a bargain. Good night, Mr. Valentine.
Yeah. Good night, Mr. Harker.
Well, how do you like it, Mr. Valentine? We finally got our gas station. There's even an auto court in the back.
Sure looks swell.
Well, we just thought we'd drop by, Doris, and see how you and Johnny were making out. By the way, where is Johnny?
In the back somewhere. You ought to see him, Claire. Happy as a kid, can't find enough to do. But none of these things would have been possible except for you, Mr. Valentine.
Well, thanks for the badge of honor, Doris, but all I'm doing is trying to make a living.
That's what Johnny and I are doing now. We're closer than we ever were. Why do you know, in the spring we may even open up a hamburger stand.
Oh, love and hamburgers. A reasonable substitute for a mink coat.
Something like that. All I know is everybody should be as happy as Johnny and I are now. For instance, you two could,
Oh, never mind, Doris. Subtleties like that are wasted on our friend here.
Oh, I know what Doris is driving at, all right.
Oh, do you, darling?
Yeah, but Angel, can we make it pay? Opening a hamburger stand.
Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and Standard stations throughout the West. Let George Do It stars Robert Bailey as George with Francis Robinson as Brooksy. Tonight's story was written by David Victor and Herbert Little, Jr. and directed by Don Clark. Also heard in the cast, Michael Ann Barrett as Doris, Tony Barrett as Johnny, Jay Novello as Basher, Louis Van Ruten as Harger, John Allman as Helianos, and Lester J. as Driscoll. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. What an episode. This was just a nice detective story mixed with some really good dramatic writing. I love the way the character of the champ was played, as well as the polite sounding Heavy. This was just the best of Let George Do It. Good acting, good drama, and really showing the heights to which this show is capable of reaching. This, of course, was also the last episode with the organ version of the orchestra theme. If I remember correctly, next week we're going to have a new theme. So listen to that. The only thing, of course, listening to the show that I could wish for is that the audio really was in better conditions. I have to say that I am, those two radio archive sets of Let George Do It I've got really are impressive because they made that this series sound just so good. And unlike with other series, there aren't non-commercial sets that have very high quality. But still, you get the good story, and definitely worth the effort to listen to this one. All right, well, we have a comment here from August who says, "Hey, Adam, you sounded a bit under the weather on Friday's episode." This was actually 2 Fridays ago. And no post for today. Are you okay? Well, thanks so much for asking, August. Yeah, I was, I got over my bug. What actually happened about a week and a half ago was we were having an issue with our feeds, and found out it was caused by a plugin I was using to make my site easier for people to see on their mobile phones. So we're going to have to come up with something else to make it mobile friendly, but I kept just corrupting the feed so that and just inserting this ridiculous text in there, and so that caused iTunes not to download it. So apologize for the delay we had on that technical issue. And we just have a simple keep them coming, Adam from Lyon on Podcast Alley. Well, thanks so much for your comments, support, concern. We will be back. Oh, I almost forgot. I've been forgetting this for the last few episodes. I've decided on a new series that I'm going to add to the list of ones we want to do. It's called The Cases of Mr. Ace. Now, there are only 2 episodes of this series out there, so it's going to be one of the short ones we do. It stars George Raft as Eddie Ace. And if you recall, a few months back, we played The Cases of Eddie Drake, an early TV show made on the Dumont Network on the 1940s, as one of our video theaters. I've basically been able to deduce that was inspired by The Cases of Mr. Ace, the radio show. So we'll be happy to bring that to you eventually. Those of you who have the app or who have our premium site can go ahead and take a sneak preview of The Cases of Mr. Ace. And there are actually quite a few episodes out there in terms of titles, but really only 2.5 episodes. A lot of duplicate names. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net, and follow us over on Twitter at Radio Detectives. Before we get started with this week's episode of Sherlock Holmes, I want to let you know briefly about our sponsors. The GoToMeeting conferencing service that's offered by our sponsors is designed for bottom-line folks who want to make the most of their time, don't want to compromise the security of their business, and want an affordable service. Is GoToMeeting safe? Yes, it has the high standard of security right down to the user interface. Is it affordable? Yes, you can get unlimited meetings for $49 a month, and that includes free voice IP and phone conferencing. Will it save you time? Judge for yourself. Listeners to this program can get a 45-day free trial of GoToMeeting. For this special offer, visit gotomeeting.com/podcast. That's gotomeeting.com/podcast to start your free trial. Well, here we get into an episode that comes from a period of Holmes' life that has puzzled fans for many years. The time period between what was believed to be his death and his reemergence. This episode, the source sound quality is not as good as in previous weeks, but it's still fairly listenable, and is the best version we could find. So, with slight apologies, let's go ahead and enjoy Murder Beyond the Mountains.
Petri Wine brings you Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce in the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Petri family, the family that took time to bring you good wine, invite you to listen to Dr. Watson tell us another exciting adventure he shared with his old friend, that master detective, Sherlock Holmes. And I'd like to talk about an adventure myself, an adventure in good eating. It begins with a good wine, Petri California Sauterne. You just serve that Petri Sauterne the next time you have fried chicken. You like fried chicken? Cooked so it's crispy and a beautiful reddish gold color on the outside and just as tender as all get out on the inside. Ah, that's chicken. But wait till you try it with Petri Sauterne. That's a wine. That Petri Sauterne is a pale, delicate golden color. You can just look at it and you know it's going to be one of the most delicious wines you've ever tasted, if not the most delicious. Petri Sauterne is not only wonderful with chicken, it's great with fish or any kind of seafood, too. Get a bottle of Petri Sauterne. When it's a Petri wine, it's a good wine. And now I'm sure Dr. Watson's expecting us, so let's go in and join him.
Ah, there you are, Mr. Bartell.
Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening. Draw up your chair by the fire. That's it. The tobacco's in the jar beside you over there.
Thanks. Well, Doctor, all ready for tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure?
Yes, Mr. Bartell. Though on this occasion I'm going to tell the story a little differently. You see, I didn't take part in it myself, so I shall act as a narrator and recount the adventure as it was told me some years after it actually took place.
Told you by Sherlock Holmes, I suppose.
Yes. At the time the story happened, the whole world, including myself, believed that my old friend had been dead for 3 years.
What did he do with himself during those 3 years, Doctor?
Wandered about the world, Persia, Egypt, the south of France, and 2 years of his time was spent in Tibet, where he disguised himself as a Norwegian explorer by the name of Sergerson, his object being to visit the forbidden city of Lhasa. The story began as Holmes stood on the outskirts of a tiny encampment, high in the Tibetan snows, disguised as a Norwegian Sergerson. Surrounding him was an excited group of native guides, their fur-capped faces and shaggy sheepskin coats making them appear like strange, wild animals as they stood there gesticulating wildly. The freezing wind whirled great clouds of snow away from the mountaintop that loomed above them. And Holmes told me that he felt a premonition of impending disaster.
Sir, my men will go no further. They say the goddess of the mountain is angry. If we climb further, she will swallow us up. She will bury us.
But we cannot go back now. We have come so far, 1,000 feet, 800 feet higher. We shall reach the pass. We shall be safe.
I will not go. We can stay back there in the tents until the goddess of the mountain tells us we may go further.
He is right. We can't go. We don't want to go anymore. It's too...
Fools! If you stay here in the wilderness, in the village, and the avalanche comes, you will all be buried. You will be swept away. The only road lies upward.
We will not go.
Back to the tent. The wind is rising.
Then I shall go on alone.
Holmes was the only one who survived. He struggled up the pass that led to safety, the icy gale whipping round him in a frenzy. A few moments after he reached the top, the avalanche occurred. The tents, the guides, and all their equipment were buried beneath hundreds of feet of hurtling, thundering snow. The way behind him was closed. He could only forge ahead. Alone, unaided, he descended the path that led to the plateau beyond. But the goddess of the mountain was still angry. Through the knifing wind and snow he battled on, without food and without, as he told me later, much hope. Even Holmes was helpless in that battle of man against the elements. What happened in that 36 hours he never really knew, except that the wind howled and the driving snow slashed at him without mercy. Finally, his mind began to wander, and he became delirious.
Watson, dear boy, hand me my violin, will you? Moriarty, I want to introduce to you the goddess of the mountain. I think you will have a lot in common. 221B Baker Street, cabby. For heaven's sake, get me as fast as you can. I think I've caught a chill.
Though his mind was wandering, great strength combined with instinctive urge for self-preservation must have kept on his feet. But finally he returned to normal consciousness to find himself jogging along a rough road in a primitive cart drawn by 2 oxen. The sun shining on him, and a white girl feeding him warm broth from a cup. For a moment the girl looked at him with a comforting smile, and then she spoke.
No wonder you look puzzled, poor man. You can't make up your mind whether you're in this world or the next.
Who are you? And how did I get here, please?
My name is Eileen Farley. I'm a medical missionary. I found you wandering out of your mind 2 days ago, and I've taken you under my wing. We're going to the monastery of Panchapushpa.
I'm most grateful to you, Miss Farley. You have saved my life. Permit me to introduce myself. My name is Sigerson, Olaf Sigerson. I'm a Norwegian explorer.
Oh, no. No, your name is Sherlock Holmes, and you're a famous English detective.
Please, I don't understand you.
Mr. Holmes, you've been delirious for the last 2 days. In your ravings, I was delighted to learn that great Sherlock Holmes did not die 2 years ago at the Reichenbach Falls.
I can see that further simulation is useless, my dear young lady. However, I must implore you to keep my secret. It's essential that for a while longer
The world continues to think me dead.
You don't need to worry, Mr. Holmes. I'm a great admirer of yours, and I promise that no one will ever learn your secret from my lips. Try drinking a little more broth. You're dreadfully weak.
Thank you, sir.
Help me, please. Please, to give me help.
Another white man travels the road to Panchapushpa. Stop the cart! You need help?
My own cart has broken the wheel. You're going perhaps to the monastery of Panchapushpa?
We are?
Good. Pyotr Dmitrievich Dorogin, Imperial Russian envoy, will travel with you. Please to make room. Spasibo.
Remember my secret.
The cart may proceed. Понимаешь? Your name, please, young lady.
Eileen Farley. I'm an American medical missionary.
I do not approve of missionaries, but you are very beautiful. So Borogin will forgive you. Who's this mujik lying on the floor? He looks half dead.
I am half dead, Господин Borogin. My name is Sigerson. I am Norwegian.
What is a Norwegian doing in Tibet?
I have been exploring the mountains. And what, may I ask, is a Russian doing in Tibet, Господин Borogin?
What is a Russian doing? You shall see, my friend. To Holy Mother Russia shall belong Tibet. But now let us be gay. We have some hours ahead of us. You like vodka, Miss Farley?
I'm afraid I don't drink.
Borogin will teach you to drink. Then he will sing you songs of his native Russia. We shall be happy. Ay, chiki, 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 gor, vashni, more,
Singing. Holmes told me that every note jarred his aching, weary head. After a few hours, the strangely assorted trio arrived at the gates of the monastery. An edifice, as Holmes told me, of great antiquity and of breathtaking beauty, and built in the shadow of a giant mountain. He was fed and bathed, and shortly afterwards he found himself together with his two companions in the presence of the head abbot himself, a man of great age and infinite wisdom. The faint chanting of religious music could be heard coming from another part of the monastery. As the old man spoke,
My dear Miss Farley, my dear gentlemen, I have welcomed you to the monastery, and yet each one of you has come to me separately and asked that he be given permission to go to the sacred city of Lhasa. I cannot give that permission, my children.
Borogin has traveled a long way. Russia will be most unhappy if he does not get the permission.
I am an explorer, Reverend Sir. Will not that fact entitle me to some consideration?
I, too, have traveled a great way, sir.
My children, I realize your claims, but the permission is not in my power to grant. Tibet is ruled by our Chinese overlords. In any case, I will ask you to turn your heads. The gentleman approaching us has preceded you in residence here. He also wishes to tread the road to Lhasa.
You have new visitors, I see.
Yes, my son. Permit me to introduce you. Sir Harvey Forrester, and this is Miss Eileen Farley.
How do you do?
How do you do, Sir Harvey?
Gospodin Borodin from Russia.
How do you do? One cannot travel the world without meeting an Englishman. God we push it, Watsi.
And Mr. Olaf Sigerson from Norway.
God dag, Sir Harvey.
How do you do?
Please be seated. My children, the Chinese ruler in this province has heard of your presence here. He has announced his intention of visiting you. Before he arrives, I should like to ask you each a question. 4 of you, all from different countries, have traveled here to the mountains of Tibet. At this monastery, I can offer you refreshment, the opportunity of acquiring wisdom and peace. What more do you seek in Lhasa? I shall ask you each that question in turn. You, Miss Farley, what do you seek?
I seek the opportunity to bring both God and health to your Tibetan people.
And you, Mr. Sigerson?
I seek to chart the true course of your mountains, and so to bring knowledge to the world.
And you, Господин Borodin?
I seek to bring about complete understanding between the great peoples of Tibet and Russia. If I succeed, Tsar and his family may consider turning to Buddhism.
Indeed. And you, Sir Harvey, As representative of the British government, what do you seek?
I shall not join in this contest of wishful thinking. I merely remind you, sir, that your government has signed a treaty with mine.
And was not that treaty forced upon us by our Chinese overlords? No, my children. You have advanced brave reasons, but I cannot help remembering that the streams of Tibet bear gold nuggets the size of hazelnuts. You foreigners, in your pitiful ignorance, esteem gold. That signals the arrival of Watson, the Chinese emissary. Your problems will be settled, my children. I will acquaint him with your request.
Why are you smiling, Mr. Holmes?
At the name of the Chinese overlord, Watson. Must avoid falling into old habits and saying, elementary, my dear Watson.
Shh. He's going to speak.
Silence! Silence! The abbot has told me your wishes. I will hold conference. American lady and Norwegian will not be allowed. Only Great Britain and Russia have treaties with my country.
I insist that I have prior right over the Russian representative.
Short was me. I represent the Tsar, and Russia is your neighbor. I demand my diplomatic privilege.
Follow me. I will decide the things, not you.
I shall inform the British consul in Peking if proceedings...
This is an insult to the Tsar. Holy Mother Russia will never...
Well, Mr. Holmes, it looks as if you and I, at any rate, don't get to Lhasa.
No.
You look worried. Does the journey to Lhasa mean so much to you?
It isn't that. I'm worried about the potential danger that hangs over this monastery. Violent forces are at work.
What do you mean, Mr. Holmes?
As you know, Miss Farley, I have some specialized acquaintance with these matters, and I tell you that I have rarely seen more clearly exemplified that emotional tension which leads to one thing, murder. That is what I'm afraid of, young lady. Murder.
That was what Holmes was afraid of. Later that day, as the sun was setting over the mountaintop, the old abbot walked slowly in the monastery gardens as he talked to the man who he thought was
Mr. Segerson, what can I do to help you? Our conversation has pleased me. You are a man of rare perception and knowledge. I grant you one worthy to enter Lhasa, but I can offer no hope. Mr. Wa has already rejected the applications of both the Englishman and the Russian.
He did that?
He did, my son. He told me they were both very angry and threatened him.
If anything were to happen to the Chinese emissary, would you have the right to grant permission for the journey to Lhasa?
Yes, until the new envoy arrived at Peking. But what are you suggesting, my son? This monastery is a haven of peace, a backwater far from the troubled stream of life. No violence has ever occurred here.
I hope it never will. Yet, the Chinese envoy was threatened, you say, Reverend Sir?
Yes, my son.
He has left the monastery, of course.
No, those who come here, even for a short visit, must break bread with us and sleep at least one night. Mr. Wa is quartered in the cell you see before us.
Then do you mind if we call on him, Reverend Sir?
Of course not, my son, though you will waste your breath in talking to him. He will not give you permission to take the road to Lhasa. He sleeps, my son. Let us not disturb him.
If you don't mind, Reverend Sir, I must waken him, if he can be wakened.
What can be wrong?
I think I know. I'm going in. There is your answer, Reverend Sir.
He is dead.
Yes, sir. Strangled with his own cue.
Oh, the poor misguided man has taken his own life, my son.
No, sir. Look at those marks on his shoulder. He has been murdered.
But what are we to do?
As it happens, Reverend Sir, I've had a certain amount of experience with these matters in my own country. If I were to produce the murderer for you with certain proof of his guilt, would you authorize my going to Lhasa?
Yes, since for a few days that mission is mine to give, I will grant it. You fill me with a strange confidence, but how will you find this taker of life?
I can't tell you now, sir, but I shall find him. All that I require is a little assistance from you, sir.
Of course. What is it?
Let us both leave the cell, post a guard here, and give him strict orders that no one is to enter unless accompanied by me.
Very well. But, my son, where are you going?
Before very long, sir, I hope to be on my way to Lhasa.
Dr. Watson will tell us the rest of his story immediately, so I'll just take a second to remind you that hamburgers, hamburgers, are practically an all-American food. We all love a good hamburger, but wait till you taste a juicy hamburger together with a glass of Petri California Burgundy. Boy, that Petri Burgundy is a hearty red wine that's just the best friend a hamburger or steak or any kind of meat dish ever had. So remember, if you want a red wine for dinner, you want Petri Burgundy. If you prefer a white wine, you want Petri Sauterne. And if you can't make up your mind which you want, it's simple. Don't buy one, buy two. But always buy Petri. Petri, Petri. Well, Dr. Watson, it seems to me that Sherlock Holmes was in a tough spot. There he was, thousands of miles from England. A murderer was running loose. Holmes was in disguise. And he hadn't got you to help him, my kid.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Bartell. I must say I think that I always was useful to my old friend. But I wasn't there. So this time he enlisted the services of Eileen Farley, the American girl. Immediately after he'd left the cell of the murdered man, he'd gone to Miss Farley and told her of the tragedy. As they returned to the scene of the crime, he found that his instructions had been carried out and that a guard was barring the entrance to the dead man's cell.
There's a guard in front of the cell.
My instructions. The abbot gave you your orders.
Yes, you may go in.
Please close the door behind us. I'm sure your nerves are up to this, Miss Farley. It's not a pretty sight.
I've seen sudden death before, Mr. Holmes. In any case, I would dare appear frightened. I'm so flattered that you asked me to help you.
You were the only one who knew my true identity. That's why I suggested you take my old friend's place. I need, what shall I say? I needed a sounding board for my deductions. Wait a minute, here. I'll light a match. There we are. Now, here's a candle.
Oh!
I warned you it wasn't a pretty sight. Hold the candle, will you please, Miss Farley? Thank you. This isn't hard to reconstruct. The killer stood behind his victim, held him by the left shoulder. So, wound his cue around his neck and pulled back. Yes. The marks are self-evident. Hello? What's this on the floor at his feet?
A cigarette. Dropped as it was burning, I should think. And now it's nothing but ash.
Exactly, ash. Now, which of the visitors at the monastery smoke cigarettes?
Yourself? The Russian? And Sir Harvey, the Englishman.
I think we may justifiably omit myself from the list of suspects. So that narrows us down to two. Look, Miss Farley.
What is it?
There are clear traces here to the naked eye, not only of tobacco ash and paper, but of cardboard.
But what does that signify, Mr. Holmes?
The case is nearly solved. Come on, young lady. We must pay a visit to Borodin's cell at once.
Arguments. Always, Sir Harvey Forrester, you give me the argument.
But, my dear Borodin...
I am not your dear Borodin. I'm Pyotr Dmitrovich Borodin, ambassador of Holy Mother Russia. I'm no friend of yours. Come in. The missionary girl and the sick Norwegian. Come in. We will drink vodka. And I will sing Russian songs for you.
We haven't come here to listen to songs. The Chinese envoy was murdered tonight.
So we have been told, my dear. Sir Harvey and I are very happy because of his death, are we not?
Well, I won't pretend I'm heartbroken.
Rasputin Borodin.
What is it, Norwegian?
You were in the cell tonight at the time of the murder.
Huh? That's a lie.
I can prove it. In that cell, I just found ashes, of totally burned cigarette ashes that included fragments of cardboard. Only a Russian cigarette has a cardboard mouthpiece.
What you can or cannot prove is of no interest to me, Sigerson.
He's very obstinate tonight, Sigerson. We've just been having a political argument. Couldn't agree on a single point, except on the danger of the common man. He was telling me of the most extraordinary revolution in his estates. Do you know they chop off one of his hands?
Dreadful.
Your hand, Borodin. Which one?
As God was merciful, my left hand.
The one beneath your glove?
He's made of wax, my good Norwegian. He's made of wax. Well, see for yourself. Extraordinary.
It's more than that. It is conclusive proof.
What do you mean, Mr. Sigerson?
I cannot tell you now. I must leave you here. Let me warn you, the three of you will be well advised to keep an eye on each other. Meanwhile, I must see the abbot.
Why, Mr. Sigerson?
Because now I know who murdered Vatsun.
The pink fingers of dawn are stealing across the mountain top, my son. Soon you will be on your way to Lhasa.
Yes, Reverend Sir. You have kept your promise.
You kept yours, Mr. Sigerson. The Chinese soldiers have arrived, and the tale of life has been given into their custody. Before you leave, my son, I want you to do something for me.
Anything, Reverend Sir. What is it?
The hooded figure in the corner is that of the monastery scribe. He keeps our annals. I want you to explain for our records how you knew which one of the three was the taker of life.
It was not difficult, sir. The killer had gripped Watson's shoulder with the left hand, while the right was used to strangle him. Therefore, the Russian Borodin could not be the killer, since his left hand was artificial.
Quite so. It was, as you told me, made of wax. Then...
But the clue of the cigarette pointed directly to the Russian. Therefore, it had obviously been planted there deliberately to incriminate him. Now, there is no trained police force in Tibet.
We need no police. There is no crime here, my son. But continue.
Why should the cigarette be planted to incriminate the Russian? Unless there was someone capable of making the deduction from a handful of cigarette ash. Therefore, the murderer was the one person who knew my true identity. Miss Eileen Farley, supposed missionary.
No missionary. As it transpired when she confessed, no American.
No. A Secret Service agent of German origin, seeking to reach Lhasa before the Russians, and infuriated by Watson's denial of passage. Any Secret Service is better off without such employee.
She will pay for her mortal sins. May she redeem herself in her next place on the wheel. My son.
Yes, Reverend Sir.
You are about to leave me, and I shall never see you again. Though evil and death came to Pancha Pushpa and to my monastery in the caravan that brought you here, I shall miss you, my son. I shall miss you greatly.
And I you, Reverend Sir.
Would you consider staying here? I can only offer you peace, a shelter from the outside world, and quiet companionship.
Three great gifts, sir. But I cannot take them. My work is not done. I must go on.
Of course, my son. It was an old man's dream. One last question.
What is it, sir?
You spoke of your true identity just now. Who are you, my son?
Reverend Sir, I cannot tell even you the answer to that question. One day, perhaps, but not now. Let us just say that I have wandered through a world of trouble, just as you have remained tranquil in a world of peace. I hope, sir, that we shall meet again.
I hope so, too. Goodbye, my son.
Goodbye, Reverend Sir. Goodbye.
Doctor, that was really an unusual story. You told it so well, I felt you were actually a part of it.
No, my boy, as I said, the story was told me by Holmes. I've never been to Tibet. Been to India, of course. I never really wanted to go to Tibet. Horrible mountains, terrible weather, lots of bandits on the roads. So dangerous place.
Doctor, you're not afraid of danger, are you?
10 years ago, Mr. Bartell, a question like that had been insult. Today I realize that all of us, unless we're stupid, have some fear of danger. I would say that I'm definitely not a coward, nor am I a thrill seeker, but I've done with searching for something new.
Me too, Doctor. I'm through searching for something new also. Now that I've found Petri wine, I'm going to stick to it.
Mr. Bartell, no matter what we talk about, when you say it always sounds like Petri wine.
Well, why not? I can't think of a more delicious wine. And no wonder. The Petri family has been making the fine Petri wines for generations. Ever since the 1800s, they've handed on down from father to son, the fine art of turning luscious, sun-ripened grapes into fragrant, delicious wine. And because the making of Petri wine is a family affair, you can rest assured that the Petri family takes pride in doing a good job. They won't put that name Petri on any wine that isn't up to the high Petri standards. Yes, if it's Petri wine, you know it's good wine. because Petri took time to bring you good wine. Well, Dr. Watson, what new Sherlock Holmes adventure do you plan to tell us next week?
Well, now, next week, Mr. Bartell, I'm going to tell you a story that started off in a very light-hearted way and ended on the same note, and yet it involved Sherlock Holmes and myself in serious danger and caused us intense humiliation. I call it The Adventure of the Pigeon Feathers.
It sounds swell, Doctor.
Oh, thank you very much. And before you go, I want to remind the families of our returned veterans that their sons are more than heroes. They not only fought bravely, but in the armed forces they acquired new skills, learned or bettered themselves in some trade or furthered their education. Our men have returned with a new maturity and a new wisdom. They'll be more valuable to past or to future employers and more valuable to their country. The greatest assets America has at this moment are her veterans. Remember that. Good night.
Tonight's Sherlock Holmes adventure was written by Dennis Green and Anthony Boucher and was suggested by incident in the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle story, The Adventure of the Empty House. Music is by Dean Foster. Mr. Rathbone appears through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and Mr. Bruce through the courtesy of Universal Pictures. They are now starring in the Sherlock Holmes series. The Petri Wine Company of San Francisco, California, invites you to tune in again next week, same time, same station. Sherlock Holmes comes to you from our Hollywood studios. This is Harry Bartell saying goodnight for the Petri family. For a solid hour of exciting mystery dramas, listen every Monday night on most of these same stations at 8 o'clock to Michael Shayne, followed immediately by Sherlock Holmes. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, this is definitely an unusual episode, with Dr. Watson out of the picture in terms of the story, and Basil Rathbone trying to do a Swedish or a Norwegian accent. He had a little trouble with that one. He might have gone with one of the ones he'd done better. But this episode, I think, to me, just really brought home the point that Sherlock Holmes may have been the first great character to have a fan following. What I mean by that, we think of Star Trek or Star Wars, where people speculate endlessly about the character, about their lives and their childhood, and they want to know more and more and more, and they can't get enough. Well, Sherlock Holmes was the original at that. There are movies and stories and books continuing to be written every year, trying to get down every mystery. People can't get enough of them, and that was just as true, if not more so, in the 1940s. So this is the type of story you just kind of see. People were fans of Sherlock Holmes in a way that they were not of probably any other detective. I don't think there was ever this type of demand for backstory and every detail of Philip Marlowe. And so the amazingness of the franchise we're dealing with here is what really stands out to me. All right, well, for those of you who have the app, you get a little extra Rathbone. Basil Rathbone plays the title role in the Phantom of the Opera on Lux Radio Theater, so those of you with the app or with our extra site, feel free to download, listen, and enjoy The Phantom of the Opera with Basil Rathbone. Got a comment here from Tracy regarding the case of the iron box. A paradox, a most ingenious paradox. And that's an apt description of the iron box. And we have an email here from Jordan. I apologize about that, hit an emoticon button. Jordan writes, "Hi, Mr. Graham." That's my dad. He said, "I just wanted to drop you a quick note to tell you how great your podcasts are. My boyfriend and I listen every night. Our favorite is Pat Novak. We really love the rich language and the characters. We also love your insights before and after each show. Thank you so much for all that you are doing. Your passion for this art form gives so many people happiness. Thank you again for all you do. And from Jordan in Boston, Massachusetts. Well, thanks so much for the comment, Jordan. It's much appreciated. Well, coming up this week, it is the last of the Sherlock Holmes, the Basil Rathbone, Nigel Bruce Sherlock Holmes films. We'll be playing for you Dressed to Kill. That will be available for you to watch this Sunday. And I don't really have any specific parental advisory or anything on that. I think just enjoy the film. Before we do get started, I want to let you know about our sponsor. If you like the flexibility to live your life and do the things that are important to you, you'll like GoToMeeting. With GoToMeeting's conferencing solutions, you can meet virtually with clients and business partners and reduce the amount of money you spend on doing business. GoToMeeting is from Citrix, the makers of the trusted GoToMyPC product. Like GoToMyPC, it's simple to use and it's secure and it doesn't require you to learn new technology. Listeners to the great detectives of old-time radio can try GoToMeeting free for 45 days. For this special offer, visit GoToMeeting.com/podcast. That's GoToMeeting.com/podcast. And we have one brief comment on Podcast Alley. My favorite is yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Thanks for the comment, and let's go ahead now and listen to your favorite as we listen to the Johnny Dollar adventure, The Harold Tandrem Matter.
From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar. Jack Barton, Johnny. Take this down. Policy number 245-7809. Got that? Yeah, got it. Los Angeles, California. Amount $1,150,000 straight life. Beneficiary, Mrs. Mabel Tandrem. Insurer, her husband, Mr. Harold Tandrem. Right, it's all down. Now, what's the problem? Officially, there's none. As you know, the company can't take any preventive action. But we certainly aren't very happy to learn that there has been an attempt on Mr. Tandrem's life.
Edmund O'Brien in another transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator, yours truly,
Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Clayson Mutual Assurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. Attention, Jack Barton. The following is an accounting, unofficial but very payable, of my expenditures during investigation, also unofficial, of the Harold Tandrem matter. Expense account item 1, $250.67, transportation incidentals, Hartford to Los Angeles, and to the 2-acre Bel Air estate of the prominent coupon clipper, Mr. Harold Tandrem. I presented my identification to the pert little maid who answered the door, was ushered through a portrait gallery and 2 living rooms to the terrace. Mr. Tandrem was bent over his morning paper, sipping grapefruit juice. He looked up at me with the same scowl I'd seen on the front pages of newspapers.
Very early. Why did the servants let you in here?
May I sit down?
Certainly not. I don't even know you.
Yes, here's my card.
Insurance investigation. I suppose you think I can't pay my next premium.
Mr. Tandrem, we have no doubt as to your credit rating. This is a much more important matter to you.
Financial?
In a way.
Now, what is this important matter?
Your life. I understand there's been an attempt on it.
That's my own affair. Strictly my own affair. I made adequate provision. Your company is worried about my life. I'm very touched. But I assure you...
Don't misunderstand, Mr. Tandrem. I'm only interested in your welfare unofficially. The company takes no preventive action of any sort. However, as a friend of Jack Barton, who's head of the Hartford office of Clayson Mutual, I'm here to try to see that no further attempts occur.
Unofficially or officially, I'm well taken care of, thank you.
Oh, that's that then.
Sorry. Must have been a long trip from Hartford.
Yes, it was.
I should offer you a drink, I suppose.
Well, it's a little early for anything hotter than orange juice for me.
My doctor makes me drink this plum. Grapefruit juice. Go rest. Dollar!
Slumped over the table and slid to the floor, still holding his chest. An army of servants rushed out and tried to look like they knew something. I was obviously the major suspect, and they vied with each other in their attempt to blame me. But nobody bothered to call 1 a hospital and 2 a policeman. Finally, one big guy, obviously a bodyguard, scooted everybody but me off the terrace and sat me down.
Besides, you didn't do it, did you?
No, I didn't think so.
But if I go back to the boss and tell him Tandrem was knocked off right in front of my eyes, I'll get the axe, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Oh, I'm prepared to exchange information with you.
Well, that's mighty generous. I'll see you later.
No, please, don't go. Law. Didn't you see nothing at all? Nothing I can go back and say, Mr. Helmer, I had my eyes open?
Well, if it means your job.
Yeah, it does. Believe me, it does.
I saw a wisp of blue smoke over there, that clump of bushes across the lawn.
And a man, he run away.
No man, just smoke.
The shadow of a man.
Just smoke.
The gleam of the gun.
A thin whiff of blue smoke.
This is all?
Look, you can make up the rest as you go along. Now, if you'll excuse me, I got a phone call to make. I think the police ought to know about this. When the sirens arrived, they examined the brush and found a few bent twigs among the straight ones. Nothing to go on. They set about examining all the servants, searching the house, but their efficiency got them nowhere. By the time they left, they had collected no information at all. The only thing they had succeeded in doing was to make Mrs. Mabel Tandrem lock herself in her room for a good private cry. It was after the police left that I remembered the last word of Mr. Harold Tandrem. Lila. Hating unsolved mysteries as I do, I knocked quietly at Mrs. Tandrem's bedroom door instead of hopping on the next DC-6 to Hartford.
Go away.
Please, Mrs. Tandrem, I'd like to talk to you.
I don't want to talk to anybody. Go away.
I'd like to talk to you about Lila.
Who did you say?
I'm Johnny Dollar. I'm at the
What about Lila?
May I come in? Thanks.
Tell me what about Lila?
Well, that's just what I was about to ask you.
You're one of the detectives, aren't you?
No, I'm an insurance investigator.
Sit down. What did you hear about her?
The last word your husband said was Lila.
Yes, it would be. That's all he talked about. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Oh, I got a steady diet of her, all right. What did he say about her?
Nothing. He just said Lila.
I suppose his insurance money won't be paid now that he was murdered.
The fact that he was killed won't interfere with the payment, Mrs. Tandrem. The way it looks now, you'll get your money with very little trouble.
Because that's all he left me, mister. Me and the Jesse Frederica rescue mission. Money. I've got a closet full of coats and so many dresses I run out of hangers, and I've got shoes piled to the ceiling. And if I wanted to go out, nobody was nicer than he was about it. He'd see that one of the boys from his office took me wherever I wanted to go. He was real good to me, miss. He picked me up in a cafe where I was working as a waitress. He picked me up and gave me all this. And still I hated him.
Maybe I'd better go.
No, don't go. I gotta talk to somebody. Insurance, huh? How much was it?
$1,150,000.
Pretty big tip for just a cup of coffee, wouldn't you say?
He didn't have many friends, did he?
Nobody, mister. Not a friend in the world. You could comb the city from one end to the other for somebody to say a nice word about him. The closer you lived with him, the more you hated him.
It'll be pretty tough, I guess, to find out who did it.
It wasn't one person. It was the whole city. The whole world. Everybody got together and said we got to clean the rot out of the territory, and they hired somebody and did it.
Take it easy, Mrs. Tandrem.
Don't call me Mrs. Tandrem. Mabel, what? Mabel Harriet McGrandy. Know what I'm going to do? How much did you pay for it?
$1,150,000.
And into a little apartment, have a couple of cats. I always wanted a couple of cats, but he couldn't stand them, and I couldn't have any. Siamese I'm going to get.
Where can I find Lila?
I didn't tell the police about her. Why should I tell you?
No reason. I'd just like to know.
Lila Winning. She lives at the Village High Hotel. Very lovely. Very refined. I suppose maybe she was the only one who liked him. Hey, when you get through there, come back and talk to me some more, will you?
Expense account item 2, taxi fare to the Village High Hotel in North Hollywood. 4 tanned kids dashed in and out of a sprinkler's path. I walked to the last apartment to the right and knocked. I knocked again. I knocked a third time and tried the door. It was locked. I looked in the window. Through the lace curtains, I could see the body of a girl. Her head lolled crazily to one side, and there was a small red dot on her temple. The police investigated. The bullet hole was the quick work of a .38. There were letters in the bureau drawer, letters to Harold Tandrem. The sergeant who found them grabbed the nearest chair, propped his feet up on a stool, and settled down for a long day's reading.
Hey, listen to this. how I die to have you put your arms around me again. Darling, you must know how much I miss you. You must know how much I love you. And then she takes it from there.
All right, Sergeant. You've had your kick for the day. Dolly, you seem to be just about everywhere these days.
Mabel Tandrem gave me her address.
She tell you anything?
I gathered that Lila was the other woman in this mess.
Only one left out of the three. I think maybe we'd better pick Mabel up.
She didn't have time to do it, Lieutenant. I was with her right up to 20 minutes ago.
Would you swear to that in the courtroom?
Yeah, I'd have to.
In that case, let's look around. Thorough search, Sergeant. Room by room.
Right,
Somebody
Lieutenant.
hasn't heard.
Right.
I'll get it. Hello? No, she isn't right now. Who's calling, please? I see. No, I don't think she will. I'll tell her. Yeah, goodbye. Jessie Frederica Mission calling. We wondered if Miss Wenig was going to be down today. She hasn't been down since last week. The boys miss her.
Bet they do all right.
I understand she was quite a charitable girl, devoted a lot of her time to the down and outers.
The Jessie Frederica Mission. Huh. See you later, Lieutenant.
Where are you going?
Well, I think I've heard that name somewhere before. I'm going up another blind alley. If I pick up anything, I'll give you a ring. Expense account item 3, $4.90. Transportation Bel Air to the Jessie Frederica Rescue Mission on Main Street. Now that the mystery was doubled, I thought it wise to follow up every enterprise the two late lovers had in common. The driver let me out in front of a store with the Jessie Frederica Mission, everyone welcome, painted on the window in gold. I walked into the place, past little groups of sullen men sipping their coffee from tin cups. There was a room labeled, Wait in Here. An abrupt young man, nattily dressed, motioned me into an inner office and closed the door behind me. I was all alone, except for the smiling old lady at the desk.
Your name, please?
Johnny Dollar, I'm here on business.
Certainly. How long since you've had a bath?
Well, this morning
You do look pretty clean. I think our young men have a tendency to stay clean much more than, say, 30 years ago. Don't you?
Oh, definitely. But I'm not here for a bath.
Oh, sorry, but it's required. Any dependents?
Not as yet.
Good. Have you tried to get a job of any kind? The United States Employment Service? A private agency?
I've got a job.
Oh. Well, then, I'm sorry.
I'm an insurance investigator.
Oh, you're a graduate. Well, we've had so many come back and thank us. How long since you've been here?
A long time. Are you Mrs. Frederica?
Miss Frederica.
Oh, yes. Well, Miss Frederica. Do you know Miss Lila Wenig?
Why, certainly. She's on our board of directors. A wonderful girl.
Uh-huh. Did Mr. Harold Tandrem also serve on your board of directors?
Why, yes, he does. They're very good friends.
Yes, I know. I've got bad news, Miss Frederica. They're dead. They were killed.
Oh, that's terrible. An automobile?
No.
How did it happen?
Murder. I'm an insurance investigator. If I could stay here for a while, I might be able to learn something of importance. What about it?
Well, I don't know. We've never done anything like this before.
I promise I'll take that bath. Can't you just pretend I'm one of your boys?
Well, perhaps I could, Mr.
Dollar.
Perhaps I could, Mr. Dollar. You just use all the hot water you want to.
I found myself in the midst of a lot of confused men. Men made even more helpless by belief in their own failure. I hung around the rest of the day listening to their stories. Toward evening, I found myself reliving an imaginative experience with a little white-haired, stubble-chinned guy who had forgotten I was even around.
U.S. Kiddison started going up in the morning. I watched it. I never took my eyes off that tape. It was climbing like a bird straight to heaven. Well, I'm telling you, I couldn't breathe. I was so excited, and I turned to Thomas Lamont. He was as close to me as you are, you know. I turned and said, "Looks pretty good, huh, Tom?" And he smiled and said, "Yes, Ben, we're going to be all right." Yeah. 2 more points. 2 points more, my friend, and I wouldn't be standing out here, I'll tell you that.
Didn't make it, huh?
Oh, I'm not worried. I'll do it again someday. Man who's made it once can make it again. Yeah. Why, say, I know a man, he was much worse off than I. He had less than nothing. He owed the world. And he came back and made the biggest fortune on the whole exchange. Maybe you heard of him. Director of this charity. Killed recently. Harold Tandrem.
You knew him?
Knew him? Well, we were as close as twins. Yeah. He gave me lots of tips on the market.
Nice guy, huh?
He was very nice. He was a very nice man. Oh, he was gruff sometimes, but kind. A really good heart. And when he took up with that woman, she was a director here, too. They killed her, too, you know. You knew that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when they took up together, I knew she'd kill him.
She didn't kill him.
Well, the other way around, then.
No, it wasn't that way either.
Well, you know.
No. I always heard he wasn't very well liked.
Oh, he had lots of enemies. You see that fellow over there? No, the one leaning against the wall. The one with the brown sweater?
Yeah.
He hated him. Oh, that was a real big thing, that hate was.
What's his name?
Sanderson. Bill Sanderson. What happened was, years ago, they was partners, the two of them. Bill Sanderson and Tandrem. Yep. Tandrem did Sanderson out of his brokerage business and sent him down to Skid Row.
I guess Sanderson was only one of many.
Oh, sure, he had his enemies, Tandrem did. But Sanderson, he was the one who introduced me to Tandrem, you know. Sanderson hated him worse than anybody. Hated that woman of his, too. Lila, whatever her name was.
Well, that's interesting, Ben.
Oh, it's nothing. Why, I got stories that would make your hair curl. I'll tell them to you over a drink sometime. Huh?
I had noticed Sanderson watching me out of the corner of his eye. He was a big man of indeterminate age, rolling a toothpick around in his mouth. I walked to the cafe down the street, had a bite to eat, and came back to the mission. A crowd was gathered in one corner, talking excitedly. I moved through to the front row and looked down. There was little Ben, lying dead on the floor. I moved back through the crowd and right into Bill Sanderson.
Dollar, maybe you better come along with me.
The sliver of shining metal in his hand convinced me to come along with him. There didn't seem to be a great deal of choice. He stopped me in front of a door 3 buildings down, opened it, shoved me in, and closed it again. Inside, it was not quite pitch black.
I'm glad to meet you, Dollar. Any friend of Tandrem's is a friend of mine.
We will return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. The radio audience has the chance to be a part of a quiz show. They can enjoy laughing along with the nation's top comedians, too. But Dr. Christian is the only dramatic show on the air which is actually written by the radio audience. Each Wednesday evening, over many of these same CBS stations, you hear Gene Hersholt as kindly, gentle Dr. Christian tell a story which has been sent in by a CBS listener. Here's your chance not only to enjoy a radio show, but be an actual part of that program by writing it yourself. Be listening each Wednesday evening when CBS presents Dr. Christian. And now, with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
I don't know how many times Sanderson tried to use his knife. Perhaps he was getting too big a kick out of wearing me down to use it at all. Then I was able to maneuver him around with his back against the light from the street. I grabbed his arm and smashed his fist against the wall. The fist with the knife, and when it dropped to the floor, I went about my work with a new zest.
You picked on the wrong guy, sir. Come on, get up. Okay. Come on. Easy, take it easy.
Get up, Sanderson, get up. Stand up straight.
Hey, come on now. What about it? Lay off, huh?
I got a lot of questions. About how you killed Harold Tandrem and Lila Weinig and Ben. They found out, didn't they?
Out of my way!
He pushed me aside and went out the door, melting into the population of Main Street. For me, the mystery was over and the manhunt had begun.
Got away, huh?
Yeah, he played possum and I fell for it.
Yeah, we got all the cars on the lookout. Too late to stake out the neighborhood. We'll get him. You can go on home.
No, I'll stick around just for laughs. I've got kind of a personal interest in this case.
So I see. It didn't do your face much good.
I think I'll drop over to the widow's house.
Oh, Mrs. Tandrem?
Yeah, she asked me to drop back to keep her company. With Sanderson on the loose, she may need more company than she thinks. Expense account item 6, $4.50, police headquarters to the Bel Air mansion of the late Mr. Trandon. As the cab pulled away, I noticed a familiar hulk standing on the stoop. It was the big bodyguard, and he ran toward me as if he'd just seen an old friend.
Oh, mister, I'm so glad to see you again. You just don't know.
Hadn't you better report back to the office? There are liable to be plenty more bodies to guard.
I was fired.
Oh, no kidding.
He wouldn't even give me a chance to explain. Mr. Helmer, I said, mistakes happen. What happened to me could have happened to anybody. I really had my eyes open. I seen a big guy with a .38 revolver over 100 yards away, and he run for cover. I chased him all over the plantation and finally caught him. Look here. I even brought him a piece of the suit the guy wore.
Recognizing a .38 from over 100 yards away didn't do your story much good.
Yeah, I thought about that later.
Uh-huh.
And that guy whose suit I tore is threatening to sue me.
You made a good try.
Yeah. Say, you don't know where I could maybe get another bodyguarding job, huh?
Have you tried plumbing?
Bodyguarding is the only job I know. I'm skilled.
I'll tell you what, hang around with me for a while.
What's the fee?
Oh, no fee. You can use the experience.
I'm sorry. I have my price.
A man with your pride doesn't need a job. So long.
Oh, no, wait. You caught me desperate. 10 a day.
I'll put it on the swindle sheet. What was your name?
Max.
Okay, Max. Get your foot out of that flower bed and come on. My earnest protector and I went up the grand staircase led by a butler, Max keeping a good 6 paces behind me like an Arabian bride. The butler went through a door, leaving us to wait in the hall. When he came out, he whispered to me to wait. He went downstairs, I opened the door, leaving Max on the outside, and walked in. Mrs. Harold Tandrem, who preferred to be called Mabel, was fingering the ears of a white cat on her lap.
Isn't he beautiful?
He's lovely. I want to ask you about a guy I ran into a few hours ago. Do you happen to know Bill Sanderson?
Bill Sanderson? No, I don't. Blonde or dark?
You know, you aren't the lonely little girl I remember talking to this morning. What makes you so happy?
I'm going away.
Where?
Somewhere. How much did you say that policy was for?
A lot of money.
You can mail it to me.
You're going alone?
All alone.
Pretty girl like you alone all this time? Hard to believe.
Oh, it'll be different now. You'll see. I've got my next guy all picked out. In my mind, I mean. He'll marry me for my looks and my money, but mostly for my money. Then I can be boss for a change.
You wouldn't mind if I took a small look around the room, would you?
Keep your hands off things that don't concern you. I know all about search warrants.
I'll bet you do. But keeping letters like this on your dressing table isn't playing it too smart.
You keep your hands off my personal mail.
Signed by Bill Sanderson. You shouldn't leave things like this around.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Mabel, I should have known that a girl with your looks wouldn't just sit around with her crocheting while her husband gallivants about town. You better get packed. Those tickets on the table are for the 6 o'clock plane. It's 4:30 right now.
Don't worry, Mr. Dollar. I'll make the plane.
You keep everything handy, Mabel. Point that the other way, would you mind?
We'll make that plane. Bill has wonderful plans. There's Rio and Argentina and all those South American countries. Nobody's going to stop us now.
So you paid Bill
I paid Bill nothing. He killed Harold because he loved me. Should have married him in the first place, but he didn't have the money, and that was important to me then. Met him too late. I met him after Harold had torn every penny and every bit of self-respect out of him.
He's killed a few more since you last saw him. It's been one after the other. I don't suppose you've heard about Lila Wenig and poor little Ben down at the mission.
You're a liar.
It'll be in this evening's papers. Or better yet, you call the police department. You're going off with a mad dog. He's tasted blood and he doesn't know when to quit. You've got over $1 million. Take my advice, Mabel. Find yourself another guy.
Get out of my way.
You're an accomplice to one murder. Don't try for 3.
Get out of my way!
I always bow to firearms.
This is the room with the outside lock. Goodbye, Mr. Dollar.
Hey, boss, what happened?
Where were you?
Oh, I was catching a few winks. Tired? I thought I'd die.
That's being on the job, Max. You're fired.
Why? What did I do?
A young lady and a killer are about to embark for South America, and you ask what you did. Here's your 10 spot. Try the one ad. I ran down the stairs, brushed aside the butler, and opened the front door just in time to see Mabel's car pull out of the garage and grind over the gravel to the gate. Through the rear window, I saw her suitcases piled high in the back seat. I rushed back into the house and grabbed the phone.
Silly. Homicide.
Johnny Dollar, Lieutenant. Listen, Mabel Tandrem just left here in a big hurry. She had airplane tickets for Rio. The plane leaves at 6. She's picking up Bill Sanderson first, somewhere.
Don't tell me she's in on her husband's death.
Very much so. She knows I saw the ticket, so she may try another means of transportation. Better cover all the exits.
Good work, Dollar. I'll get right on it.
Say, Lieutenant, there are too many cab fares listed on my expense account. You haven't got a car you can spare.
Sure thing. I'll send 109 right over.
He sent 109 right over. We got to International Airport in time to check the passenger list. Sure enough, there was a name, Mabel Trandon. We waited till departure time, and I felt a little like Drew Pearson must when his predictions come true.
She didn't show, Dollar. I better check with headquarters to see if she's been reported at the railway stations or the bus depots.
Smartest thing she could do now would be to pick up Sanderson and head for the border by auto.
I've already sent out a roadblock notice. Well, your job is done, Dollar. Why risk your neck?
Now, this is one I don't want to just read about. And then there's the matter of $1 million policy. Before we're through, we might have to dig up the second beneficiary. Lieutenant Pincelli checked with headquarters. They had not shown at any departure points. The roadblock had been set up on the coast route just out of Capistrano, where 101 and its alternate meet, the only highway south. Everybody was giving a 3-time killer just the sort of attention he deserved. It was getting dark. The lieutenant and I sat in his car, watching the roadblock.
Okay, go ahead.
This could be for nothing. Maybe they've decided to stay home.
No, that's not for Mabel. She's pretty restless, likes to keep moving. I think they'll make a try for the border tonight.
Hey, look up there. Somebody's pulling on a line.
Yeah, he's turning off onto the shoulder.
He's going to try to crash the block. Okay, let's go.
We weren't even sure it was Sanderson and Mabel. Might have been a couple of rum smugglers for all we knew. Whoever it was paid no attention to our siren, but we pulled closer, hugging the curves by using the whole road.
See if you can use that rifle, Dollar.
Right. There goes the tire.
They're out of control. Is that the car?
Yeah, that's it.
Let's try to get this door open.
No use, Lieutenant. Look inside.
Yeah, I better get on the radio.
Expense account item 7, another cab fare, $4 from my hotel to the Jesse Frederica mission. It was a week later. The old lady nodded me to a chair, and I sat down.
Well, Mr. Dollar, it's good to see you again. Won't you sit here? I think this seat will be more comfortable.
Thank you. I've just come to say goodbye, Miss Frederica. Wish you all the luck in the world, and I've got something for you.
A contribution?
I think you'd better sit down first. Miss Frederica, I wish I could have the pleasure of giving checks like these to people like you more often. And don't try to count the zeros.
1,150,000. Oh, Mr. Dollar.
It's from a guy named Harold Trandom. It's his way of giving back about 5% of what he should never have taken.
I can't believe it. How did it happen?
He named the Jesse Frederica Rescue Mission as a second beneficiary, and the first beneficiary is dead.
Please excuse me, Mr. Dollar. I think I'm going to cry.
She did. As quietly as possible, I got up and left. I walked out onto Main Street, down past the little shops, the surplus stores, the shoe-shine parlors, and the all-night movies. And I couldn't help thinking, $1 million can buy a lot of turkey dinners. Expense account total, $736.82. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd and David Ellis with music composed and conducted by Leith Stevens. Edmund O'Brien can soon be seen starring in the Columbia Pictures production, The Los Angeles Story. Featured in tonight's cast were James Eagles, Ted Osborne, Ed Max, Gloria Blondell, Raymond Burr, Ida Reese-Marin, and Junius Matthews. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. Join us again next week when, from Hollywood, Edmund O'Brien returns in another transcribed adventure of
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
This is CBS, where Wednesday night is Bing Crosby night. The Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. It was kind of interesting about that commercial at the end, because I searched IMDb and I didn't find a movie that O'Brien made called The Los Angeles Story. I suppose it's possible that the movie's name changed before it was actually released, though. It was also great to hear Raymond Burr, who's always interesting, whatever he's given. So some solid acting by Burr. And again, O'Brien, I think, does really well in terms of showing the deep humanity of the Johnny Dollar character in his portrayal. I also have to say that the CBS inter-show commercials are really interesting. I'd heard of the Dr. Christian radio show, but I'd not listened to it before. But this definitely piques my curiosity. It also could be a good way for a network to save some money when the cost of paying writers is going up when you have it go out to the public. Actually, the CBS commercial have given me some good clues to other shows to listen to, not even in the detective genre. Like one of the early Johnny Dollars had a commercial in it for Life with Luigi, and that quickly became one of my favorite comedies. Alright, well, it's Friday, and the last couple weeks I've been forgetting, but I want to be sure to let you know about JohnnyDollarAir.com, and there's a special that's going on. There's a very special offer for those of you who may be thinking of, after the summer's over, purchasing a vacation package and going out to Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and the Bahamas to beat the peak season. Well, if you go to greatdetectives.net, there's actually a coupon code. It's in the sidebar, and you can get $100 off a vacation package to Hawaii, Puerto Rico, or the Bahamas. So I'm adding that there for your convenience. If you're interested in other travel plans, remember JohnnyDollarAir.com to get great deals on travel and support the great detectives of old-time radio. Alright, we have two quick comments before we wrap up. What a great mix. Informative backstories by Adam Graham are great. And over on Facebook, Sharon R. comments, "Hi Adam, keep up the great work. We love the show." Well, thank you so much for listening, Sharon. And that'll wrap it up for this week. We'll be back on Monday with an episode of Box 13, and of course Sunday is our movie of the month, our video theater, Dressed to Kill, starring Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. And then next week we'll be back with another episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Got a comment? Email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Remember to cast your vote once a month on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And become a fan on Facebook, facebook.greatdetectives.net. But from Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.